Shadows Literary License Podcast episodes. Ben Stokes here, exploring all things Collinsport, Maine, and following the likes of the Collins family, and the friends and foes, with your co-hosts, Tom Diamond, Jesse Fultz, Vicky Ray, and Keith Chalgo, Collins family, story about blood relations, literally.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast. In this Dark Shadows week, we'll be discussing episodes from August to September 1969, which includes episodes 810 to 855. And before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Jesse Fultz with us. Hello, Jesse.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Nice of you to show up.
Hello, Tom.
Oh, hi there. Oh, I was just waking up. Thank you very much. It is nice to be here as usual. Jesse, welcome back after a hard semester. I heard you were busting your hump at school and getting all those A's, and he's smiling as I talk about it. Have you gotten any presidential scholarships yet?
Actually, yeah, I was awarded 2 of those. I'm also on the Dean's Road. So.
All right, sweetie.
I'm not surprised.
Congratulations. I knew you were going to be all right.
See, there's life after Dark Shadows, and
yes,
it also proves my point that a lot of intelligent, bright people are Dark Shadows fans, and they go on to other stories. But I digress. Hello, everybody. Glad to be here.
Tom.
Huh?
No, you said there's a lot of intelligent, bright people who follow Dark Shadows, and then none of them are here today.
Speak for yourself, sir. I think the host is tremendously bright, and I'm not. And if he says he isn't, I'm going to have a talk with him after the show. But at least he pretends he is. Anyway, so I hope you guys are all doing well. And Keith, back to you.
And hello, Vicky.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
All right, good. Good to have COVID Vicky with us today.
We're going to find out if Vicky's COVID later on. I'm pretty sure it is. I've got that feeling.
And I'm your co-host, Keith Chalgo. Before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to. Starting with you, Jesse. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, last night I went to a concert, and I came back afterwards. And other than that, I'm trying to fill out more applications for another college for UConn.
For what, honey?
To UConn, it's more targeted to like a career path rather than just general stuff. Which
I've been to UConn a couple of times back in the day.
Yeah, and that's the one I'm choosing to go to. I'm just filling out the applications and stuff now, and it's all like artsy stuff. I have to write a brief essay, and then I also have to write a 250-word story challenge where you create a picture of a cave, and then you also write a story about it.
God, these were so much easier back in my day. You just filled it out, you handed your SAT scores in, and they either wanted you or they didn't.
Yeah, it's a lot of work just to fill it out, and I kind of feel like I started school prematurely just because there's so much to do with that. And yeah, it's competitive. So maybe that's part of it. So yeah, I hope it's worth it. I hope I get in because
you will.
Be worth all the trouble.
You will.
And what about yourself, Tom? What have you been up to?
Pretty quiet. I decided to take a little sabbatical from the professor job, which is kind of forced since they don't have anybody to give me since their enrollment is down extremely so. And I needed a rest anyway because I've been really pushing myself. So I have introduced Sharon to sliders and which you can get on Peacock for free. And we're in the fourth season. And I understand that some really good. I had to get a new Fire Stick, and I have to install it. I've been very lazy. But once that happens, I know that the Star Trek stuff is going to start again. Discovery, of course, is in the middle of its season, and Strange New Worlds will be debuting on May 5th. And that's kind of goes back to the original Star Trek series with Ensign Mount as Christopher Pike and the rest of those. And there are and Picard second, and that has already been renewed for second season. Discovery, I believe, has been renewed for fifth season. This is their fourth. And there are some other interesting. Afterlife. The last season of Afterlife is now.
I watched that,
and I
binged it in one day.
Yeah, it's nice. It's been a while between seasons, but the last season is now finally on.
Bawled like a baby, I did.
A lot of that to catch, and I can't remember. I always talk about Outlander. Season 6 is coming out in, I think, March. Yeah,
March or April. Means I have to get stars for like a few months, then cancel it again.
Yep. And of course, season 7 will be out sometime after that. And so I have just been taking it easy. I had a little bit of a virus last week. I had a slight fever, but COVID negative, thank goodness. Yes, people do get colds post-COVID, having nothing to do with it. And so I'm
funny how that is.
A little tuckered, but I'm I'm coming out of it. And so I might be a little more silent today than usual, which I'm sure will thrill everybody on the panel. And I'll still be waking up for important stuff. So don't worry about that. So that's where I am. And Keith, what's going on?
Well, with myself, finished watching Yellow Jackets, the season finale of that, with Christina Ricci and Juliette Lewis. Fantastic. Really love that. Watched Afterlife on Netflix. Watched that one day. Got very teary-eyed, which is quite surprising because my cold black heart melted a little bit, so that was good. Just basically finished watching Titans, which really enjoyed. Looking forward to the next season of that. Finished watching Witcher and kind of just finished off all the series that didn't kind of.
Witcher wasn't long enough. I mean, come on. How many just didn't give us hardly any episodes, and then to leave us like that for a whole year? Like, what the fuck?
I think it's unfortunately, Witcher's a bit like Game of Thrones, which takes about 2 years to get a season out.
Yeah, I bet.
With all the after special effects and stuff like that, but. They got other stuff coming in line because they do have the animated series that ties in with this series. They got another series coming in that gives you the background story, the elf community, and what's went on before The Witcher. So they got all that stuff coming out within the year, so to keep you until the next season comes out. So there's a lot of pre-planning with this. So it's about to keep you satisfied until the next season comes up, to be able to give you still in the world, but looking at it through different formats and animations and different shows and stuff. So yeah, it's only because it takes a long time to put it together.
Yeah, I really like it. I wish it was more episodes.
But Stranger Things, I think, is on next month, the new season.
Next month, I hope so. I'm kind of been waiting for that.
So, and that's pretty much it for me. What about yourself? Oh, I did watch Halloween Kills. Watched that. Really good, actually. That was quite good. Really,
I liked it. I don't see everybody's tripping out about it so bad. I really liked it.
I watched Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, and I
have not seen it yet. I heard good things, though.
Yeah, I was disappointed. So
you were?
Well, they tried to put 2 games into one movie, and it would have been better just doing like the first game and the first movie, and then the second game, and so on and so forth. But saying that, the game company has reached out to us and wanted to know if we wanted to review Resident Evil, the first game, and to read the book for our books to stream. So something that I'm looking at the moment. So if they can promise us all a game console, yeah, we'll go for it. Yay, sort of thing. But so I'm dealing with the Capcom at the moment and Sony at the moment. So who knows? We'll see what happens in the future with that. And that's enough for me. What about you, Vic? What have you been up to?
Well, I haven't been doing crap for like 4 or 5 days. I've got some kind of weird virus. I don't know if I got the virus or just some weird virus.
It's like me last week.
Or something that just swept right through my family in a matter of days. That's all I know. But I haven't done too much other than, I finally, like I said, Matthew was trying to get me to watch Titan. I finally watched it. It was really one of those. It was the trailers are banned, I guess, in certain areas or certain countries or whatever. It's really weird, but I didn't think it was bannable. I guess it depends. I've got a really high threshold for what shouldn't be or whatever, other people's limits aren't mine limits clearly, or Keith's limits, but it was, I thought it was pretty interesting. Little body horror with a lot of weirdness, but I did watch Afterlife too. And I thought it was really sad, and it was kind of one of those bittersweet endings. He's walking off and, the wife disappears, the dog disappears, and he disappears, and the circle of life just continues. And I just thought it was really sad how it ended, because it seemed like he was just, I don't know, it seemed like he was in a hurry in this one. They were wrapping up the whole season, you know what I mean? And just getting all their stuff in order. That's what it seemed like to me, but I was sick. I could have been delirious.
Well, I think he could have done more seasons, and he decided this was the last one.
So. Well, the thing with Ricky Gervais is that he only does 3 seasons of anything. He did 3 seasons of The Office in this country.
That's true.
Extras, Derek, everything he does. But then he's the co-writer. He writes it all himself. Right. There's not a team of, he's
excellent comedy writer. Anything he writes. I get his boom boom, and I mean, he's the only person that uses my favorite words too, like cunt or twat, and he says them constantly, and nobody is upset about it. It's just like, yay, somebody speaks my language.
The thing about English comedy, and the reason why you don't get that many, is because they don't have they don't have 5 or 6 people writing for it. They only have the one person writing. So,
oh, okay. And that may have been him, actually.
So what you get is maybe 18 episodes in the whole series. And that's the reason being, I'm not writers kind of ready to move on to something else. So
I guess I'm still used to when we were all kids, and the networks would punch out 36 shows for a season and just take a short break off during the summer. Yeah. And those days are gone. That's for sure.
I did finally get to watch.
I actually prefer the 10 to 12 season than the 24.
I do too.
It's only because it's like they think there's not a lot of filler anymore, which I quite like. I mean, we're covering Bewitched, which has 36 seasons, 36 episodes a season.
Right.
And there are a lot of filler episodes going on. It's like
a couple of bottle episodes too, as I remember. Yeah. Where they talk about.
Oh yeah, I watched Last Night in Soho. Finally, everybody kept telling me to watch it, and I finally watched it.
Movie. Oh
my god, it was so good. Did you like it? I loved it.
Yes, I love it. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is like the best actress that I've seen in a long time.
She's got the biggest, brownest, darkest, beautiful eyes on any human being I have ever seen.
She's like a Disney animated character, didn't she?
Yeah, she's almost
she
perfect.
Does.
The side, everybody wants the perfect Elsa or whatever. She's got that, she's got that whole thing going on. And she looks like a walking anime character. She just really does. But I mean, she was so good in that, and I did not expect how it ended.
Oh, no, I
did not see that coming. And it took me for like 2 hours to realize that was Diana Riggs the whole time, the old lady. And I'm going, I know her. I know who this is. It's driving me nuts. But I just remember her being so young and beautiful, and like the old Avengers and stuff like that. And, I think
she grew old gracefully.
Now these older actors come back, and it's like, oh my God, I remember you. Yay.
What I liked about, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. What I liked about the movie was that it wasn't written like a traditional horror film. It started off
it wasn't.
as a very like you genuinely felt for all of the characters involved. I've never been so emotionally invested in a horror movie like that, but I genuinely I wanted to reach through the mirror and like grab her and save her. I didn't
did
realize.
You think that they were communicating through the glass, or was she? She wasn't imagining any of this.
I wasn't sure, but I was kind of disappointed a little bit with the ending in like when I really thought about it, just because, you know, she's seeing the ghost of this woman, but the woman's not dead. So how are you seeing a ghost? I mean, I get that it's the ghost of her old self, but that doesn't actually happen. I've never heard of that in any kind of like. Well,
I think it's because there's so much happened. What's the word I want to use? Residual energies, maybe, you know?
Oh,
it was a fantastic movie.
It was really good.
I really liked it a lot. I enjoyed it. I still got it rented. I think I might watch it again today.
Because Diana Rigg died before they finished filming it.
Really? I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah, she died last September. Last September. September 2020.
2020 or 2021? 2020?
2020.
Oh, and Meatloaf died today. We got to give him a definite, you know, whatever. I can't believe he died.
Game of Thrones and that.
Huh?
Last thing she did was Game of Thrones and this movie.
Oh, that's right. She was the mother figure in Game of Thrones.
Was one of the Tyrells or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the queen mother, kind of, sort of.
Marjorie's mother.
And Meatloaf died.
Yeah, Meatloaf and Vivette Mimieux passed away.
Yeah, she passed away too 2 days ago.
Terrible.
They're just everybody's leaving us. Who are we going to have? All the good people are going. And Betty White, that was just like, fuck New Year's. Betty White dies on New Year's Eve. It's like, come on, man.
At least she died peacefully. That's always a good thing.
In her sleep, yeah.
Yeah.
Now she has all the time in the world.
It's just kind of sad because it's like a couple weeks before whatchamacallit, wasn't it? It was like a week before she was 100.
Oh, Betty White.
Oh.
Yeah, a week
Betty
before.
White. Yeah, that my God, they were talking about her for days. What a life she had.
I know, just so many people. She touched the globe, you know.
Oh yeah.
Apparently not one of her co-stars. The Golden Girls, one of her co-stars didn't like her very much. I think.
Really, I didn't hear that.
There's always envy and stuff. Yeah. But the only thing is unfortunately, Dark Shadows, when it went off the air, was replaced by Password reruns.
Yeah.
And so the Dark Shadows fans, when you talk of Password, they turn Alan Ludden's picture to the wall. But hopefully,
I would have been a little pissed about that too. You know, that was really abrupt, though. When you go through the history,
I was mad.
It wasn't because of ratings. It was Dan Curtis said he had enough. That's why it was canceled. Dan Curtis.
That was part of it. He wanted to go to Hollywood. And
Dan Curtis is on one of the discs. Because I'm watching it. I'm not watching it on disc now. And at the end of each disc, there's an interview with somebody involved in Dark Shadows, and he said by 1970 he was ready to put the rest, and he basically was flogging a dead horse for the last year, and then he just said, I just can't do it anymore. So
he was kind of running out of steam. You know, we got those other.
There's also the issue.
I was surprised thought that he said that out loud. I mean, it's like, oh my God, he's in the interview saying that. Okay.
There's also the issue with Jonathan, who did not want to do the sequel to House of Dark Shadows.
No.
And Curtis was very mad at him for that. And it's out in
it kind of makes a lot of
Leary's
sense. He had things that he wanted to do, because I finally get around to watching Mary's documentary on Jonathan. Yep. What a wonderful show she put together.
Fantastic.
Absolutely awesome. And I mean, it really explains the man, and everybody jumped in on there and gave their 2 cents, and that was kind of cool. And it was really well done and heartfelt, and I was a little teary-eyed here and there.
Wonderful tribute.
Excellent tribute.
They even had the thing, because Curtis threatened to phase the Barnabas character out. If Dark Shadows had not been canceled, Jonathan would have been fired because he did not want to reprise his role in the second Dark Shadows movie. And but before anything like that happened, the show was canceled, so everything was all moot anyway. But it's. But I'm telling you,
I thought it was funny. Marion Ross was sitting there talking about, everybody wanted to come and see the cast, but they didn't come to see the cast. They were just coming to see Jonathan Frid after the show. And she's going, no, they didn't want to see us. They wanted to see Jonathan.
I'm glad you mentioned Marion Ross, by the way, because guess who her significant other was for many years, who was in this block of Dark Shadows?
I don't know.
There's a trivia question for you. It's King Johnny Romano, Paul Michael.
Really?
Paul Michael and Marion Ross.
I have to ask my mom if we had Italian gypsies, because I don't remember any.
But they were an item for many years, Paul Michael and Marion Ross.
I did not know that. How interesting.
Yep,
Johnny
absolutely.
Romano. You have to say it like, Magda says.
Did they great? Magda.
Poor Magda. Has there ever been a role that Grayson Hall is not getting strangled or brutalized in any fashion on this show? Does that woman never stop getting strangled?
Well, they must
Before
have.
All
reminds
of her
one to
past lives, her present lives, she's just being strangled. It's just...
I mean, some people are into that kind of thing. But I mean, come on.
I mean,
an honorable mention to the podcast Love is a Crime, which is basically a 10-part episode about the life of Joan Bennett. Put out by Vanity Fair, and Jo Bennett is played by Zooey Deschanel.
Where is this at?
It's on. It's called Love is a Crime. It's available on Spotify, iTunes. It's put out by Vanity Fair. And it talks about basically about Joan Bennett's career and basically about the murder that ruined her career.
Right.
But it also goes in, they do go into Dark Shadows, and there's an episode about Dark Shadows and her thoughts about that.
Oh, excellent. I'll watch that.
Interesting. And what's the name of that again, Keith?
Love is a Crime.
Love is a Crime.
Love is a Crime.
And it's a podcast. It's an audio podcast.
Oh, okay.
It's put out by Vanity Fair.
While we're doing the shout outs, let's do a shout out to Danielle, aka Penny Dreadful, who has who has shouted us out on a number of her podcasts at Collingwood. And in fact, she has facilitated a tremendous favor for us, and Keith, I'm going to leave it up to you, but there's going to be a nice little surprise, hopefully, for the fans as a result of her facilitation. So thank you in advance, Penny Dreadful, a.k.a. Professor Danielle.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut to the bloopers from Dark Shadows from Tom Diamond, and we'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. Tom Diamond here. And once again, we come to another Dark Shadows block, so to speak, and this time it's episodes 810 to 855. And I'm going to go over the stars that appeared during this block, the new ones, as well as the bloopers. But before I do that, I want to emphasize that these things are usually done, when I do them, they're done after the podcast is taped, in order to take care of any peculiarities that come up, among other things, during that were not covered during the podcast that I can allude to here. And what we want to all bring to your attention, Keith, Ricky, and I, is that yes, we are aware that something happened during this block, a major thing. Barnabas was staked by Charity Trask, and it looks like he was killed off as a vampire. With all the other things that we had to cover during this block, because as you're going to see, there were at least 6 or 7 plot lines that were intermingling and connecting, and in discussing all that, we neglected to talk about the Barnabas being staked, and we will be talking more about that in the next podcast next month. But just suffice it to say right now that this was a tremendously upsetting time for Dark Shadows fans. They were crying, they were weeping, they were gnashing their teeth, and in reality, Jonathan Frid took a month off from the show to portray a role in Murder in the Cathedral, which was critically acclaimed. And that's why they decided to kill Barnabas off for a month, because they didn't really know how to deal with it otherwise. So they took their lumps, and will Barnabas come back? We will see next block how that happens. But that is one thing. The other thing that we're going to be discussing more in length occurred during the last 2 episodes of this block, and it was Petofi's possessing Quentin, and which didn't quite take place yet at the end of episode 855, but we see that Quentin's wearing Petofi's ring. We're going to get to a blooper on that. As a matter of fact, actually, I might as well talk about it now. There's a little bit of legerdemain in episode 854. Petofi is mesmerizing Quentin, and he puts his hands on his head, and Quentin's sitting down, and Quentin's drifting off to sleep. And you're going to see Thayer David then putting his hands behind his back, because what he does is he takes his ring off and he palms it. And at a certain point, and the camera isn't on it, he will move around to the front, and he will give the ring to Selby, who will then put it on his hand in another little maneuver that the camera picks up. Well, the camera doesn't pick up. But what the camera did pick up was that in 854, and you'll see that Petofi has one hand in a fist as he moves around, and that's probably where the ring is. But in 854, I believe he had it in his right hand, and in 855, the next episode, which they kind of did it over again, he has it in the other hand. Which you can see which hand is made into a fist. Very, very clever little device, and once again we'll be talking about that soon. But now let's get back to this block, and be rest assured that we're going to be covering those other topics at our next podcast. So regarding the new stars in this block. So with episode 810, we have actress Mary Farrell, who portrays Mrs. Fillmore, I should say. And Mrs. Fillmore is the caretaker who has been taking care of Quentin's twin children. The little boy is dead already, so Lenore, Quentin's daughter, as a baby, is left with her. Mary Farrell was known for Lights Out in 1946, Duet in 1987, and she was in Growing Pains, Cagney and Lacey, and The Love Boat. Now, in episode 811, Marie Wallace comes back one more time as the ghost of Jenny. It's a very, very interesting portrayal because she comes back as what Jenny used to look like when Quentin first met her. Very, very pretty. There's none of that crazy hair coming out of her, and there's no craziness anymore. This is Jenny as she was before everything happened, and that kind of makes sense that after you pass, you are best remembered as the best person that you were in life. And good on the part of the writers. Violet Wells, by the way, is a writer, comes to the fore once again, working with Gordon Russell and Sam Hall. And you have some really nice stuff, but very, very complex plots. I can understand why the writers were shaking their heads. And I don't know whether it was actually at this time that the writers actually went out into the street because they got confused in terms of what was happening. They asked the fans in the street what was going on, and the fans let them know. And that's how they were able to continue the show. Episode 812 marks the first appearance of Donna McKechnie as Amanda Harris, who originally was Tim Shaw's girlfriend, Don Briscoe. Has some good stuff in this block. And then later on, she falls in love with Quentin, and they have a nice little relationship going there. And Donna McKechnie, of course, was very, very famous after Dark Shadows because she went on to establish herself as a dancer on Broadway in Chorus Line. And she was also in Little Prince, 1974, and it looks like, and she was in Fame, which makes sense, in 1982. She was, let's see, she's been in Cheers. I remember her actually in Cheers. I remember the episode from the first season. Every Little Step. She was in Family Guy. She's doing a lot of stuff. She was born she comes from Detroit, Michigan. And she is still with us. And she has been to a couple of conventions, not many. But she is very, very. She was one of the ones from Dark Shadows who made it, and she is introduced in this block. As I said, she starts in episode 812, continues into 813, and and Donna McKechnie is in a lot of episodes in this block. 820 marks the debut of Paul Michael as King Johnny Romano, the king of the Gypsy tribe who runs after Magda for stealing the hand of Petofi. And interestingly enough, Paul Michael and Marion Lorne from Happy Days, and also who starred with Jonathan Frid in Arsenic and Old Lace. Paul Michael and Marion Lorne were an item for a long time. And he was born August 15th, 1927 in Providence, Rhode Island. And he has been on Hill St. Blues and some other stuff. But basically, his claim to fame was, also some other stuff. Seinfeld, Frasier, Eloise at Christmas Time, Gilmore Girls, Miracle Worker, Music Within. He passed away on July 8th, 2011, July 8th, 2011, in Woodland Hills, California. And his portrayal of King Johnny was really over the top, which was great for Dark Shadows because, you love dramatic performances like that. I think he was perfect in the role. Good for Paul Michael. 821 marks the short debut of Henry Judd Baker, the second and last black actor to be on Dark Shadows. The other black actress on Dark Shadows was that nurse who you may have remembered gave Humperdinck and Strado a really tough time in the hospital regarding seeing Tom Jennings. And Henry Judd Baker portrays Istvan, the servant of King Johnny, the big muscular guy. He was in a couple of movies in 1985, and after Hog, and then these movies are kind of forgettable. Shakedown in 1988. Let's see, The Good Practitioner, and he passed on August 28th, 2016. So he is no longer with us, but his role is Istvan, and of course Istvan will meet his death by jumping off Widow's Hill as Barnabas hypnotizes him in order to get him away from kidnapping Magda. And so he has earned a footnote in the Dark Shadows realm. Okay, here's some real trivia for you. I'm sure that everyone is kept awake at night wondering who the actors were who portrayed the jury at Magda's trial. If you remember, King Johnny put Magda on trial for stealing the hand, and allegedly Johnny thought that Magda had killed Julianka, who was portrayed by Diana Davila in the last block. In reality, Petofi was the one that had killed Julianka, but Johnny wasn't aware of that. But basically, Johnny was out to put Magda to death in a slow, torturous way. So this is a kind of reprise, if you guys remember from last year when Barnabas was put on trial by Reverend Trask. And of course, the punishment there was for Barnabas to be walled up the way he had walled up Trask. And Trask brought back ghosts from the 1795 era, Ruby Tate and Maud Browning and so forth. So this is really kind of a rip-off. They did it all over again, although they did do a little nicer job on the special effects chroma key, where they had the ghosts appearing and walking in through the mausoleum door, because this trial was held in the anteroom of the Barnabas's crypt room in the mausoleum. And there's a nice little blooper which I might as well mention now, which is while this is taking place, Johnny Romano is intoning, and one of the Klieg lights, apparently, my guess is that the bulb exploded in one of the Klieg lights, which created almost a flash effect, and then you heard that sound with like glass breaking, and it kind of startled Paul Michael. He was doing a line, and after that sound, he had to repeat the line again. See if you can figure out where that is. But let's get back now to who portrayed the ghosts in the jury, and these were all dead murderers who came back. And Roy Van Orden portrayed the ghost of Andreas. Joseph de las Hortas is the ghost of Sergio Cordash. Joseph de las Hortas was born on May 5th, 1934, and was in The Godfather Part 2, Toma in 73, Airwolf in 74, Quincy Medical Examiner in 76, Rockford Files, The Allegiant Fields. He was in Baywatch, and he was in Chips. And so Joseph de las Hortas did some really interesting work after Dark Shadows. Okay, John LaMotta played the ghost of Marco, and he was born in Brooklyn on January 8th of 1939. And he was an American Warrior in 85, Running Squad in 86. He was in ER. He was in Frasier. He was in Vampire in Brooklyn, for believe it or not, Breaking 2, and he was in a couple of other movies. So he also had a little bit of a career after Dark Shadows was over. Okay, Victor Mojica played the ghost of, played another one of the ghosts. I can't read my writing. And he was born July 31st of 1937 in New York City. He was in The Final Countdown in 1980. Blood In, Blood Out, 93. That's a forgettable picture. And Johnny Firecloud in 1975. And Norman, and he died October 17th, 2019 in Florida. That was Victor Mojica. And finally, Norman Rigg is the ghost of Fedor, and he was in a couple of unforgettable movies. One, A Directory in 1960, and he was in a movie in 1980. So he didn't do too much after Dark Shadows. So those were the 5 extras who portrayed the jury in Magda's trial. In episode 830, we have a brief reappearance of Deborah Loomis, who portrayed Jessie Kincaid, who was Quentin's first kill as the werewolf, and she comes back as her ghost. And it's a very, very short scene. The way they made her up, she looked absolutely horrid, and I think the producers may have been concerned that she looked so scary that all the kids were going to run out of the room. So it looks like they kind of edited that scene, and you just get a brief appearance of her as the ghost who comes back to haunt Quentin and I believe warned Trask about him. So this is not really an appearance by Alex Stevens as the werewolf, because you don't really need him in this block, because as you will find out, Charles Delaware Tate. Now Roger Davis, of course, comes on as Charles Delaware Tate, the painter, who decides to paint. Doesn't really decide. He's ordered by Petofi to do a painting of Quentin, and this is a ripoff of Dorian Gray, because the painting holds Quentin's werewolf image, and as long as the painting is around, Quentin will no longer undergo the transformation. At the time of the transformation, the painting itself will turn into that of a werewolf in beautiful greatcoat and tie and ring and so forth. Once again, the best dressed werewolf you'll ever see in the movies, TV, or anywhere. So that is now immortalized in the painting. But there is one episode, and I believe it is 839, where the image of Alex Stevens as the werewolf is seen by Selby. It's a still. So I'm just going to note that as a kind of trivia. But they just used a picture of him. 842 marks the 3-episode appearance of Alexander Court as Charles Tate's creation. There's a ripoff not only of Dorian Gray through this, but also Pygmalion and Galatea, as Charles can draw, and whatever Charles draws comes to life, which is something even Petofi wasn't aware of. And so Charles Delaware Tate, Roger Davis, is experimenting and draws it and is trying to convince Amanda, who's another one of Charles Delaware Tate's creations, and we will see that when we discuss this block. And it's kind of hard for Amanda to believe, but she realizes that prior to 2 years ago, she has no idea of what happened to her. And March 15th, 1895, apparently was when she was created. 2 dates are noted on this show. And the other is September 10th, 1897, which is the date of Quentin's death. And we get into that more. In fact, one of the voiceovers in the beginning actually points to the date of September 10th, 1897, which is when Quentin is supposed to die, to give the fans that, and that's the only voiceover that actually gives an exact date, not just the year. Alexander Court was in Your Money or Your Wife in 1972, and John and Mary in 1969. And he has a non-speaking role, but again, not only is this a Pygmalion and Galatea report, but Alexander Court's treatment by Don Briscoe, who's trying to get him to speak and trying to be nice, it reminds you of Professor Stokes and Adam. So it's kind of an Adam, very, 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 very short, but an allusion to the Adam story that Robert Rodin played, may he rest in peace, so expertly. And he is killed off by Charles Delaware Tate, who shoots him, and he disappeared, and Alexander Court is this creature, unnamed creature, disappears while he's on the ground. Episode 844 notes the return of Catherine Leigh Scott as Lady Kitty Hampshire, or Lady Kitty Soames, I should say, who is the Earl of Hampshire's, the late Earl of Hampshire's wife, and his name was referred to as Gerald Soames. And Catherine, you'll see Catherine Leigh Scott in a number of these episodes. In this, we see that she is the true reincarnation of Josette. Barnabas met her once, and immediately falls in love again and has this big fight with Julia, who is extremely annoyed that Barnabas has once again found the love of his life. and Julia thought that Barnabas was going to go back now with the present, since everything with Quentin was history was changed as a result of their interaction, and Quentin did not die on the 10th as he originally did. But Barnabas now wants to stay in 1897 and establish a relationship with Kitty Soames and turn her into Josette Foley, and if possible, and that was before he was staked. In any event, Catherine Lee Scott plays this very interestingly. I personally think that she kind of played this like Tara from Gone with the Wind. I think there's a lot of, entitlement. There's some fiddle-dee-dee in there. I asked Catherine about this, and she did not believe that was done that way. She didn't intend to do it that way. So I'm just noting that as to her professional opinion of the role. But anyway, she does come back, and she will be around for a little while as Kitty Soames, Lady Hampshire. A very brief footnote in episode 851. The woman on the train platform who talks to Selby, who tries unsuccessfully to stop Amanda Harris from leaving due to a mix-up where she never got his note. So the woman on the platform is actress Amy Yackerson. And unnamed woman on the platform who David Selby accidentally confuses her with Amanda at first, and that leads to a brief conversation. Now you're going to find some very interesting crossovers in this block, by the way, where some of the actors portray characters both in 1897 as well as the present, and of course Grayson Hall is one of those who, in addition to portraying Magda, portrays Julia. And the big deal here is that Julia uses the I Ching to go back to 1897 to help Barnabas. And so now we have her in the mix, which is very interesting in terms of the plot is concerned. Thayer David, who portrays Petofi most of the time, comes back one more time as Xandor during the trial. He is the one witness that Magda calls in her defense, and he's completely railroaded by Johnny Romano. And all you hear, Thayer David must have had a very easy role aside from the makeup. All he goes is say, Magda Rakosi all the time in terms of that. You have other crossovers. You have Edward, Louis Edmonds is Edward, and he portrays Roger in the dream sequence that Julia has. Actually, it's kind of a prognostication where because history has now been changed, and Quentin actually killed David in the original timeline, and David is on his pyre, or whatever you want to call it, in his coffin, and David all of a sudden wakes up in front of Roger, and so you have them playing both roles there, so watch out for dual roles. And of course Denise Nickerson as Nora portrays Amy in the particular plot line where Barnabas leaves a note for Julia, which causes Julia to come back to get him, and that's put into a drawer, which in 1897 it exists in the basement, but it will be in the living area of the old house in 1969. Denise Nickerson as Amy finds that, and Julia manages to appropriate it because Amy doesn't want to give it to her first, but Julia gets it, and that's how we find that out. So watch for these. Watch for some of these actors portraying dual roles during this block. It's very interesting. Now let's get to the bloopers. So in addition to the usual Mike booms on the shadows, which I'm not going to go into, there are some bloopers, not as much as there were the last time. But of course, the traveling Afghan, which is part of the original setup in Maggie's house and is on the couch. You will see that again on the couch of the same set, which is occupied by Charles Delaware Tate in this block. The traveling Afghan is also part of Lenore's blanket on the floor, and that's where she is being kept in Mrs. Fillmore's house. So watch out for that traveling Afghan, and also watch out for the Collinsport fly that makes a brief appearance. Lady Hampshire is having a dream where with Angelique, where Angelique portrays the servant, and very briefly in the dream, Catherine Lee Scott is once again Josette, although she doesn't realize it. And Angelique gives her a bunch of flowers and a book of Burns, and those two items are on the table when she wakes up. At the end of one episode, the flowers are on top of the book. In the reprise, which is done in the next episode, first scene, the flowers are separate from the book. Catherine Lee Scott goes to pick up the book, and the Collinsport fly lies briefly on her finger, then flies off. Good to see you again, Collinsport fly. Just a footnote: Dan Curtis directed episode 811. Violet Wells wrote it. You don't see that too often here because Henry Kaplan is doing most of the direction with Gordon Russell, Sam Hall, and Wells also contributes. But Dan Curtis directed episode 811. There's a very brief voiceover blooper by Briscoe in episode 813 where he talks about taking a coach, and he says out of the hotel, then he says out of the inn, because it is the Collinsport Inn where they're staying at. Very, very minor. The bloopers were in episode 814, where Petofi is lying in state, so to speak. He's dying, and of course Aristide's got to get the hand in order to revive him. And Thayer David first lies with his hands to either side on his chest, and then he keeps moving them, and he's supposed to be in a coma, but he keeps moving his hands. He keeps moving his hands to the to either side of his body, and then he moves one hand back into his chest, and then he moves it back to the body, and you're gonna see that he keeps moving, and he's trying to become comfortable, but the man's supposed to be in a coma, for God's sakes, and of course everybody ignores it because you would think that would be evidence that he would be coming out of whatever he's in. Very, very nice. And in another blooper in that episode, David Hennessy as Jameson is unconscious because he has been possessed by the spirit of David, which is very, very interesting, by the way, to be possessed by a spirit that has not been born yet. And I think is a very, very creative part of Dark Shadows, because usually when you're possessed, it's with somebody who's already died. So, but anyway, at one point when the scene starts, David Hennessy has his eyes closed. He opens his eyes to make sure the camera's on him, and then he closes them again. But good for you, though, David. David, you're allowed. He did such a great job, and I go into that later in the podcast. He did a great job in portraying these other characters that he was possessed with, whether it's Petofi or whoever it is, or David, and that definitely deserves some honorable mention for him in this block. Look for the nice segues, by the way. Some really good camera work in looking at the flame, for instance, of in the Collinwood fireplace, and then it goes right to the flame of another in another scene. Very, very seamless stuff, and so that's very, very good camera work. I believe Layla Swift was doing the job back then. Episode 816, you see two interesting bloopers, but again, you have to have a very big screen to look at this. When Don Briscoe opens the main door to Collinwood, you see glazed windows from the bushes, and I think that was trying to cover the exit door that we talked about in a prior block when David Selby opened, and there weren't enough bushes, and you actually saw an exit door, which I think led to the steps, and you saw a red and white exit sign. So I think they're trying to cover it here with glazed windows, but there aren't enough bushes, so you actually see that. Another blooper in 816 is when Briscoe is trying not to laugh when Petofi says, "It's mine again," like a hand, and he does this in a very officious way, and you can actually see Don Briscoe trying to stifle giggles. Episode 817 has the vision that Petofi gives to Beth about what will happen to her if she keeps consorting with Barnabas, where Barnabas bites her, and it's really the only scene where you see Terry Crawford as the vampire Beth, and she bares her fangs towards the camera, and you see that she's got her left fang looks like she's got a filling there in the tooth, so it's a little dirty. But it's very, very funny, and Terry Crawford always at the conventions made reference to that one scene where she finally became a vampire, even if it was only in secret. You got that green light on her, and she looks so ghoulish in that particular scene. Watch out for the closed captioning bloopers here for any of you who have Amazon Prime. I'm not going to go into all of them. But in 818, Aristide is Harris Deed, Harris, and then the word Deed, which is really cute. Also, another one in this episode, Petofi states she made the gods angry. Closed captioning, she made the guards, Guards, angry. And the funniest one, also closed caption in this episode, is when Petofi said, "My dear Miss Trask," and the closed captioning says, "My dear Miss Trout." In episode 820, you're going to see King Johnny Romano slapping Magda a couple of times, and it's very, very obvious that they're doing that little fake slap where he waves his hand in front of her face, and then you have the sound effect of the slap. You see that a couple of times. He's not really slapping Grayson Hall. He's pretending to, but and that's not done too well. But it is funny if you see it. Now again, if you were seeing this 50 years ago on that small TV, you never would have been able to tell the difference. I'm going to go back to the stars for just a second, and I apologize to people. I forgot all about Philip Cusack, Cusak, who portrayed Abraham Howell, the corpse, in 821, where Magda had cut off Abraham Howell's hand and pretended. Well, no, excuse me. It was Petofi. It was Petofi who did that to try and distract Johnny Romano from getting a hand by using another hand of the corpse, which Charles Delaware Tate kind of touched up, and that was the corpse of Abraham Howell, one of the people in the cemetery. That was portrayed by Philip Cusack, who was in 9 to 5 with in 1982, according to his bio. Although I looked up 9 to 5, I couldn't see his name. And his date of birth was May 10th, 1934 in Boston. So just in case the fans are groaning because they thought we forgot about Abraham Howell, Philip Cusack, now you know. I think one of the biggest bloopers in 823, where Petofi lets Frid out of the coffin where he had been keeping him prisoner by putting a cross on his chest. Well, he takes the cross off of his chest, and he's shining the cross right at Barnabas, and Barnabas is looking right at him, and it doesn't seem to affect him while he has this long dialogue with Petofi. And then once Petofi decides he's got to go back in the coffin, he really moves the cross in his face, and then Frid turns away. But for at least 5 to 10 minutes, they're having a nice talk while Petofi has the cross in front of him in plain view, and Barnabas does not flinch. 823-824, which was, apparently they had a holiday, so one episode goes for kind of both of them. And here we see a closed captioning blooper. Petofi is talking about listening to Berlioz, and the closed caption did not know how to spell it, so they left it completely out. And another blooper, you see the clock in the column, and the shadow passes by the clock, so we don't know what that's about. Episode 825, a closed caption blooper. They cut off your tongue was what they were supposed to have said, but the closed captioning said they cut off your dad. I don't know, but that's about. 825 has a great blooper where Istvan is trying to gag Magda with a handkerchief, and he misses her mouth the first time, and it's like going over her eyes, and Grayson Hall bites part of the handkerchief so that he can re-tie it around her mouth. And that's at the end of 825. And in the beginning of 826, then it's redone, and he gags her mouth the right way. Very good. Looks like 828 is the last episode for Paul Michael, who is stabbed by Aristide as Paul Michael is about to cut off Petofi's hand. In the original vision that Pansy Faye had, she actually saw the hand being chopped off by the scimitar. Here, Aristide throws the knife, I should say, into Paul Michael's back. He is still breathing. He might have still been alive, so we'll take that away. We won't take that away from him. But anyway, that's the last episode in 828 that Paul Michael appears in. I do have to mention, very interesting in one of the episodes, look at the door that leads, in Petofi's apartment, that leads from the main area into that little room that Petofi puts himself in to have a trance. And what you're going to see in a couple of the episodes, believe it or not, are the outline of the I Ching wands through the door. I believe this was used as the I Ching door because Petofi had a number of people go through the I Ching. He himself did it, Beth did it, Briscoe did it, and it was all in that room. So the I Ching door doubled as the door to Petofi's room. You're going to see an outline of the black I Ching as well as the white, and in another episode that's all painted over, and you don't see that anymore. I think that's fascinating. In 834, we also don't know the name of the hexagram that is used to send one of them through. And we know of the 49th hexagram, the hexagram of change, and there's the Poe hexagram. But in one of them, the hexagram is missing. We don't know which hexagram that is. In episode 838, listen for a cough backstage as Jameson is waiting by the door. In episode 838, look for a figure moving in the right-hand corner of the screen. and then moves away in Collinwood. Some of these breakable wine glasses that are put in Petofi's hands and are supposed to break when he squeezes it because he's angry at what's happening. Selby's done the same thing. Well, in this particular one, in 838, I think where he's supposed to scratch Quentin across the face, the glass doesn't really break when he tries to crack it. He moves across his face anyway. Of course, it's fake. The bottom line is that the portrait is supposed to show all the blood running down his cheek, and Quentin is not affected. Episode 845, Bangor in closed captioning is noted as Bainborough. Best line in 852. Instead of these one-liners going to Roger, they're now going to Quentin. When Angelique says, "I'll be a beautiful bride," and Quentin says, "And I'll be a miserable, unhappy groom." Episode 853, you will note that while Kitty talks to Quentin in the drawing room, the camera catches Laura Parker waiting in the wings for her cue, and she then moves out of the camera range because she realized she was there a little too early. Finally, in episode, and I'm sure you're very happy I said finally, in episode 854, Aristide calls Petofi Your Honor, and usually he always calls him Your Excellency. So that was a blooper on Michael Stroker's part. So, thank you for listening, all you devoted blooper fans. And for those of you who are not, thank you for tolerating. And now we get back to what is a really, really good show. And see you next time.
Hello, welcome back to the Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Dark Shadows, episodes from August to September 1969, which includes episodes 10 to 855. And our first discussion will be Quentin's story, which is scene 1. Armistice's medallion fails to cure Quentin's daughter, Lenora. Magda summons a spirit to help. At Trask's suggestion, the possessed Edward begins to strangle Quentin. Quentin and Beth try to free Barnabas, but are unable to overcome Count Petofi's powers. Tate has finished the portrait of Quentin and realized that Quentin is a werewolf. Quentin releases Barnabas. Charity has a vision of Quentin's death in the tower room, Armed with a gun containing a bullet, Trask waits up to the moon rises, but discovers the portrait has changed instead. Oh, God, I messed that up. Sorry. Armed with a gun containing silver bullets, Trask waits for the werewolf to emerge. Quentin does not change when the full moon rises, but discovers the portrait has changed instead. Barnabas sends Magda to warn Quentin. In 1969, the ghost of Beth explains to Julia how Quentin originally died in 1897. Petofi prevents Beth from shooting Quentin, but Quentin must pay the price for his health. So, Tom, what are your thoughts of this storyline?
Well, I just wanted to add that we have a brief reprise from Marie Wallace as the ghost of Jenny, who comes on.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was several episodes back. I forgot about that for a sec.
And she comes on board the way she looked when she was young and beautiful,
and not bad shit.
And so without all the hairdo and everything.
They could have prettied her up some. When she was being crazy, but they could have found a brush. I'm sorry, the woman is drop dead gorgeous. Brush her hair at least. She can be mad with brushed hair.
But the funny thing is that that's what she's known for among the fans today. That's what they love about her. But that particular segment isn't always talked about, where her ghost came back. I think Quentin was trying to call Julianka back.
That's right.
And Jenny came instead, and she basically cured Lenore from whatever ailment that threatened to kill her as well.
Who was making them sick? Was it the curse? I can't remember.
It was the curse. Yeah, it was. Well, the curse killed the kid,
right? The boy. But shouldn't he have gotten older and turned into a werewolf?
Who's this? The
Quentin's son.
Well, he died, but had he lived, he would have. Yes, had he lived, he would have become a werewolf.
But the daughter, like the
daughter, it's only the male heirs.
Never more.
It's only that's right. That's right.
Never mind.
There you go.
No
Whole
one.
ripoff. Well, if Dark Shadows could do it, you could do it too. There's all the voices. But that was I thought that was a nice touch, and
What's that?
bringing Marie Wallace back for one episode as Jenny's ghost, and you see that she's really, and Quentin is trying to make up to her and tell her he loves her, and the next thing you know, he's in Beth's arms again, and of course, this block we have, of course, we're skipping over, but we have Donna McKechnie who comes on for the first time. Donna McKechnie of Chorus Line fame as Amanda Harris, but I will tell you that this is my favorite thing in this block is something else, but here we get a sense of the fact that Barnabas is not as all powerful as he thought he was, because Quentin Barnabas was trapped by Petofi. And the cross was on his chest, and Barnabas couldn't move in the coffin. And all you see for a few episodes is Jonathan. Oh, and in a pine box coffin. I'll tell you, he's really come down in the world. He's been in these gorgeous coffins, with full length, all during the show, and now he's in a little pine box.
Toffee's a cheap bastard.
Travel coffin. He doesn't mind if it gets lost in baggage.
I figured maybe he turned Jewish, because in the Jewish religion, the pine boxes are what you have to be buried in. But how low they have sunk. Let's put it that way. But there's a mishmash going on here, and you have to realize, and as we go into this, and you go into the other scenes, there is a lot of stuff happening.
It's just a clusterfuck. Let's just say it.
It is.
It's just a barrage of storylines.
I just think they went crazy with everything, and I did.
I know. Just like, were they writing together? Or were they writing separately, then meeting?
They're supposedly meeting. I would think Violet Wells is again has her hand in this block, and she's a great writer. But I think
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's all over the place.
Part-time. I did like the going back to 1969. We've seen
for a brief second.
Yeah. We've seen that for so long already, and now when Barnabas writes when Barnabas thinks he's finished, and he writes the letter to Julia, which he puts in the desk.
Who just happened? Yeah, aren't they lucky that letter just happened to get found
by Amy, and then you see Julia and Professor Stokes again, and you get and oh boy, we haven't seen them in a while, that kind of thing. So Grayson Hall can wear regular makeup, and Thayer David can sound professorial again instead of Magda.
With that dumb wig. I'm sorry who hates on me. I don't like the wig.
Yeah. Well, as Professor Stokes, he doesn't have to wear the wig. But the idea of, they had to, how did Quentin die? Well, there's the original.
But is that Quentin's bones?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
We're gonna find out whose bones those are.
Because Quentin now, of course, fights this, so his bones probably just
Well, just because you found a skeleton in Quentin's room, everybody's been assuming it's Quentin's skeleton.
Yeah.
And now we find out that it wasn't.
Right.
So we will find out whose it is.
Next block.
In the next block or in another. Yes, definitely, probably in the next block. But it does at least clear up. And originally, all these timelines and how they're changed and how alternate. And remember when they were originally talking, Quentin was a werewolf and he got shot and killed. by a hunter or something. And that was a couple of blocks ago. So now it's kind of matured. And that was before the writers really figured out what was going to happen and what was going to go on. So now, of course, now it's kind of evolved. David Selby's fandom is solid in stone, and they know they're going to keep this guy. So they've got to make up, and that's where, and it could be in another scene. Keith, forgive me if I briefly touch on that. But the picture of Dorian Gray ripoff, we have a few ripoffs here. You have a picture of Dorian Gray ripoff. You have a Galatea ripoff.
Pygmalion Galatea, definitely.
Mm-hmm, yeah, but the bottom line is, so now we have an established reason that Quentin was killed by Beth out of a fear of jealousy, and then after Jameson rejected him, and then Beth committed suicide the next morning, and that was the original plot. Now Petofi changes history by preventing all that from happening, and that's very interesting in terms of scene one. In terms of, I think it's not major when you look at Petofi wants to go into the future, and that's a
we can't forget Nancy Barrett. I want to dance with you.
Wanna dance your cars away.
That cocktail.
All the eight Chico.
Oh my God. Nancy Barrett is so good in these scenes. I love her to death in all these. She's so cute for one.
I love the way she bugs the hell out of Trask. Oh, he's so ashamed of her,
Oh, I know. She's all saucy and sultry and
come up to your room immediately, Charity.
Got her war paint on.
She says, "Leave me alone, love. I've got my own things to do with the Blue Line."
I know. She reminds me of Ian. No, wait. She reminds me of Graham Chapman doing that voice that he always did in Monty Python. It just reminds me. I don't know why.
It's funny.
It just does.
But there are, by the way, there are a number of versions of "I Want to Dance." I'm sorry, Keith. What was that?
The Quentin storyline, anyway. I mean, he originally could have been killed as a werewolf, but of course, Barnabas does. Messing with time goes back, and that's probably the reason.
Right.
Well, because there's plenty of times where he was supposed to go out on the prowl as a werewolf, but Barnabas kept him locked up to help protect him and stuff like that. So that could have happened. So that might be, to give the writers maybe a little bit of credit here. Maybe that's the
right.
Storylines and stuff.
And Angelique is always warning him. That's why she wants to get him back to the present as soon as possible, because she's saying the more he stays, the more he changes the future, the more he changes history, and the more of a possibility that he's going to be in danger because of his actions. And she's always warning him, he's not listening.
Barnabas is that old parable that the road of good intentions.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, because everything that Barnabas touches, he tries to fix something.
Goes to shit.
So he's like a little boy with, putting his finger in the dike. He's trying to plug up all these holes all the time. It just gets worse and worse. So.
You got to feel bad for Barnabas because he just wants so badly to protect, the family.
Barnabas doesn't have a God complex, though. Where he thinks he can fix everything sort of thing.
Well, yeah, kind of.
But now already, I think you've seen the full mature Barnabas come out as the compassionate vampire who apologizes to Beth for having bitten her and used her and stuff. Petofi tried to confuse Beth by giving her that famous scene, and it's the only scene where Terry Crawford used to say that was the only scene where she was allowed to wear fangs. When she became a vampire, she got a kick out of that. But in reality, and they're all saying, "Oh, Barnabas is," and Beth was always mad because Barnabas wanted her to release him from the coffin, and Petofi prevented her from doing that. And she was always saying, "Oh, he's going to be so mad at me. He's going to take it out on me." And when push came to shove, he said, "Of course, I'm not mad at you. It was Petofi that did it. It wasn't your fault." And he admits to her that he used her, and he feels very regretful about that. That is not the Barnabas that we saw in episode 210.
No.
So this is the final mature, compassionate vampire who regrets what he does, but he has to do it, in terms of people that inwardly he cares for. And
he's definitely the original vampire with a conscience.
That's what it's turned into, and that's what Jonathan will always be remembered for. And nowhere is it more. Nowhere can you see it more than here.
Barnabas makes a Quentin as well.
What's that?
I said because the Quentin's a different Quentin than we got when we first went.
Yes.
So
they kind of really, the chemistry between Barnabas and Quentin really worked because they really needed each other, and I kind of liked seeing the friendship form because let's face it, they hated each other in the beginning. But then they started relying on each other. And then they both realized they both had an affliction,
Well, most of that was Quentin's fault.
Isn't it? Between the two of them.
Most of that was Quentin's fault in the beginning. Because, the first thing he does is, hello, cousin, and takes a scimitar to him. Takes a sword to him in the drawing room. He's Quentin's a ne'er-do-well and trying to live off people and all that. Anyway.
What are your thoughts, Jesse?
Okay, so speaking of the reluctant vampire, I just recently seen Interview with the Vampire for the first time, and I noticed a lot of reluctant vampire action going on there with Louis.
Right.
And I was wondering if you guys think if Anne was inspired.
Yes, I do.
I was honestly really impressed with that. And that's
I think so, but some of her fans might not think so.
Yeah, I've heard. But it was the closest thing to Dark Shadows that I've seen that was truly original and kind of heart-wrenching.
Suffered terribly being a vampire. Yeah. He hated it.
Yeah.
In the book, he's so beside himself. The book is even better.
It's in the 1790s. Louis becomes a vampire.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I noticed a lot of those.
Then you go through Victorian times.
She has to have been inspired by that. Yeah.
A little bit. Into the present day where he's being interviewed. Right.
So I thought that was very fascinating. And I would love to see, something, either that be made into a show or Dark Shadows. I want new, fresh blood.
It might be out there.
It's so sad to lose all of that.
It's in the pipeline at the moment. So
that I heard about that. I think they're already picking out actors. I heard Sam Reed is going to be Lestat. And I also heard of
they're doing a redo?
No, they're
doing a show. It's a TV show of that. And I also heard, again, another suggestion for a Dark Shadows TV show, which I'm kind of excited about because they want to stick more true to the original series and kind of continue off of that. And I read an interview by the guy. I forget what his name is now, but when I heard that initially, I wasn't too excited, but after reading the interview, I had a lot more intrigue and hope for a continuation. And it has a lot to do with Victoria Winter's daughter, I think. And I thought that was very cool. And I thought it was cool because the character's name for this would be Tori Danvers, I believe. And Tori, I was working on my own just for fun years ago, and Tori was actually a character that I created based off of Victoria Winter's character. So I thought it was cool that they used that name because it was something that I was going to use for mine. Just the first name. I didn't have the last name, but I thought that was cool. So I'm kind of excited to hear about that. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but I thought it was fun news.
So this brings us to scene 2, Count Petofi's story. Tim returns to town with Amanda Harris, along with a box containing the hand of Count Petofi. Jameson, desperate to find the hand, forces the truth from Nora, who has hidden it for Tim. Barnabas brings the hand to Aristide. Petofi soon recovers and is hand is reattached. Petofi says he will cure Jameson if Barnabas will reveal the secret of his time travel through time. Petofi causes Jameson to become possessed by the spirit of David Collins. Charity sees a vision which alarms Petofi. He causes her to believe she is Pansy Faye. Angelique agrees to try and end Petofi's spell. Petofi arrives with a mysterious portrait. So, Vic, what's your thoughts about Count Petofi?
You know, my thoughts are on Count Petofi. Oh my God, this story is just like taking forever with Count Petofi. It's just got too many tentacles and it's going out. I'm really kind of shocked at what a butthole Tim has turned into. You know, he's just not a nice guy, is he? And Amanda, I mean, she's the, what is it? She Galatea or is he? But no, wait, who's his name?
Yeah, she is. But you don't find out till
Roger
later.
Davis. And I always got to keep Roger Davis's characters like straight because he's played so many different characters in the last, I don't know how many episodes. He's had like 3 different characters.
Mm-hmm. And they're all a bit samey as well.
And yeah, and then you get Jameson. Okay, he's possessed by the spirit of David Collins. I don't understand why that even happened.
I think it's interesting, though, because this is the first time, you know, usually when you have possessed spirits, it's the past. It's you're possessed by a spirit that has already died. This is the first time that that the character has been possessed by, and it's his own grandson,
somebody that's not been born.
His own but yes, he's been possessed by a spirit that has not yet been born. I thought that was rather
not unless
creative.
you believe in quantum leap and parallel universes. So.
Well, there you go. And then we could talk about Sam Beckett, but I don't think we're here into that.
We could.
Yep. But and it is interesting the way you talk. But yeah, he's possessed by the spirit of his own great grandson. I think because Jameson. No, it's his grandson because Jameson.
Yes, there's really not a whole lot of time that is passed between the Victorian era and the 60s. It's what 70, 80 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering why no one's still alive. Why aren't the kids still alive? Isn't anybody alive? You know that remembers?
Well, it's 100 years. Well, it's less than 100 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
70 years, I think, or something. But anyway, I thought he's possessed by the spirit of his own grandson, and talking to, and this is how the 1897 characters get a hold of who David and Amy and Elizabeth and Roger are, and it's injecting more of the present. It's kind of mixing the present now into the 1897 arc,
right?
And there's something fresh about that. And you never know what David is going to say out of his mouth next in terms of Jameson.
Plus, is Pansy Faye, or is she possessed by the spirit of Pansy Faye?
She's Charity possessed by the spirit of Pansy Faye. Petofi, that was never.
I remember when he cursed her, but I didn't know if he just messed with her head or actually sealed a spirit in her. So. He
did both. Originally, I think he gave her a little taste of it, and she kept going back between Charity and Pansy.
Right.
And finally, he said, "This is your new life," and he permanently imbued that.
Yeah. They keep going back and forth a lot, though. Everybody's losing their memory, then coming back. It's just like everybody's having these bouts of,
Well, I like that they took the virgin and turned her into a whore. I thought that was quite funny.
Right.
They took the what?
Two extremes of the spectrum. It's like, I'll wait for marriage. Oh, I'm Pansy Faye. Can I take you behind the shed and give you a little?
She does it so well, though, that accent and she. I think Nancy Barrett just off the charts in these episodes. I totally love her.
No, I think aside from the Carolyn character, which was basically when am I going to grow up? This is a real takeoff, and I think Nancy Barrett has a lot of fun with it.
I think she is too,
and especially when she. When she comes up against Jerry Lacey's Trask, that old stuffed shirt, and he's like,
a pervert.
Oh yeah, that he is. Oh, he's running after Amanda. He's running after He's running after Donna McKechnie, and so is Quentin, by the way.
Everyone's sniffing around her.
Everyone.
Dog in heat. Like here comes the dog sniffing around her.
Tim Shaw. And it is a treat for Briscoe, I think, also here to do a more evil character. I mean, up to now, he did Tom Jennings as the vampire, but that was very, very, that was very short. Most of the time he's Chris Jennings, and we remember him as the tortured Lon Chaney kind of soul. But here he's somebody who was good, and he kind of turned. The Petofi hand intoxicated him with power and everything like that. It's nice to see Briscoe.
What is it with that hand? I mean, was he a master magician prior to him being, disconnected with his hand?
No, I think the hand, it was emblematic of a lot of powers. Emblematic of a lot of powers, and then of course it was cut off. I did kind of like Paul Michaels' King Johnny Romano. He was very,
colorful.
Absolutely, and
an Italian Roman cheese.
Right now,
I gotta ask my mom if there's Italian gypsies, because I don't remember any Italian gypsies.
So
the name of my grandfather Miklos and my great granduncle Miklas. And all that kind of, and you get that. But of course, now Magda's trial, and that's another. Now they went over. Remember when Barnabas was put on trial by Reverend Trask, and they brought in all those characters from 1795 during the 1968 sequence. Well, now they're trying it all over again with Magda. Only this time they brought all these gypsy murderers back. But
they were dead. So that means seriously. If you're not on this earthly plane, you cannot judge. But apparently,
It means that any witnesses on Dark Shadows have to be
part
dead.
of Magda's story, which we'll get to in the next section.
Yeah.
So.
But he,
interesting.
But they did start with the portrait of Dorian Gray. Did he scratch him in this one where the painting started bleeding?
Yeah, he broke a glass. I love it when they.
That's right. He broke the plastic glass or the sugar glass.
And then he cut his face with it, but Quentin wasn't bleeding from his face, and then you see the picture, and the picture is bleeding. It looked like it was tomato juice, actually, but
stuff like that.
Yeah. But
I think the only problem that they have at Count Petofi is that it's good to have a great villain, and he makes a great villain. But every once in a while you got to make that villain falter a little bit, and there's nothing to falter at all. He just seems to come back stronger and stronger and stronger.
Well, they did once. Remember Johnny Romano? That's the one person that Petofi's powers.
Why is he so afraid of the gypsies?
That's right.
He's not a gypsy himself, right, Tom?
What, Johnny Romano?
No.
No. He's a Hungarian nobleman.
Petofi. Okay, I'm kind of confused. Okay.
He's a Hungarian gypsy with.
I don't think he was a gypsy.
Greek parentage and an Italian name.
Well, no, I don't, because I when you don't feel good, I was like binging all these, and sometimes I snooze. So I'm like, oh wow, what I miss,
Anyway, there was this, the big battle where Johnny Romano finds Petofi in his lair, and Petofi tries to choke him with the hand, and he just takes it right, and Romano takes it right off. And then Petofi is powerless against him. He is the one character in the entire world that Petofi cannot hurt because of this, I don't know, because this gypsy thing that, that the hand, that it's the guardian of the hand, so to speak. And if Aristide hadn't knifed him in the back with Aristide's usual brave approach,
right?
Then the hand would have been cut off, and that was the vision, actually, that Pansy had. Pansy had a vision of him being cut off. You can change the channel on that. So anyway,
Petofi. Aristide, I mean, his whipping boy. I'm not quite sure why he's the whipping boy. Do we ever find out what he has against?
What does Aristide even trust him for? Can't you see that as soon as he wants to send all these people to the? I'm gonna have to get some I Chi wands. I mean, these things look like a lot of fun, don't they? I mean, seriously, Aristide. I don't think anybody matters at all. I don't think Petofi is capable of love or humanity because he's really evil. I mean, he's evil incarnate. And he doesn't have feelings, and he loves playing people against each other and on each other. And I don't even know what Aristide's just a gypsy, isn't he? That just came into the picture, decided to help Petofi.
Aristide is his servant, and we don't really have a backstory on how they met. But there's as long as you've seen Petofi in 1897, you've seen Aristide.
Right.
I mean, it does seem like Petofi doesn't do anything unless, I mean, if he does something good for you, that means you're being service to him.
You're beholden to him.
Yeah. If he what he did for Quentin with the portrait, he wants Quentin. Yeah, with the portrait, he wants Quentin to work for him. That's why he cured him of the werewolf curse.
And then what Quentin is like, if you help me do this, now you owe me this, and sort of thing. So
Same thing with Beth. He prevented Beth from killing Quentin, but now, and Beth kind of comes to him on her own and says, I want to work for you. I want to, I want to see what you have to offer, that kind of thing. But there's still that kind of thing that if Petofi does something, there's always a price if he does something good for you. And with Charles Delaware Tate, same thing. Maybe he gave me all these painting powers.
I can understand why it's point to see went to work for Petofi, actually, because her and Quentin are going to get married, and he basically says, I'm going to marry Angelique, and now he's chasing after the new bimbo on the screen, sort of thing. And poor Bass, kind of like just there as the,
Does anybody remember why Angelique wanted to marry Quentin?
Mess, but no one's actually taking anything about.
She doesn't really say why. She's just insisting that he does. I don't know why Angelique's always trying to force people to marry her that aren't in love with her, because it's not like.
Well, it's always a Collins, isn't it? Though.
Yeah.
And it's money. I think it's money and status. I mean, you got to remember she's a servant girl, isn't she? At the end of the day,
she's not really hurting Barnabas.
Status, I think.
She's not really hurting Barnabas by marrying Quentin. I mean, I'm sure of course, she's what we call the polyandrous because she's still married to Barnabas. So
technically
she'd be married to two cousins. But as far as he's concerned, I'm sure he'd be very happy to see her married off to somebody else. And what does he need her? That kind of thing.
It's all about status and money, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why. I mean, if you look at, she's not looking to like marry anyone in town, is she? She's looking to marry a Collins because the Collins name.
It has to be a Collins, I guess.
Well, you didn't see her going after Carl Collins, did you? So it's just...
poor Carl. He was just unusual. Angie loved him.
Yep, she sure did.
Carl, isn't he? A bit special education on poor Carl.
Poor Carl. He didn't have much time on the show this time around.
No, I think he had some Broadway commitments or other commitments that he needed to get. But he'll be back.
Yes, he will.
Next block, actually. We're not going to talk about what and where. But no, John, we're not through with John Carlin yet. Don't worry about it. So anything else, Keith?
What's that vision that alarmed Petofi? Do you remember? Charity sees a vision. I can't remember the vision. Charity sees a vision that alarms Count Petofi. Is it where the scimitar shows up?
Oh, that's the one where he's. Yeah, she actually sees the vision of, and it turns out to be King Johnny Romano that did that. But she sees the vision of his hand strapped to the chair, and the scimitar rose up, rising up to cut off the hand. So, that's the vision that she sees that alarmed him. But she didn't know that it was Johnny Romano that was going to try to do that.
Which is Magda's story. The Gypsy King Johnny Romano arrives looking for the hand of Petofi. King Johnny takes Magda to the gypsy camp and accuses her of counterfeiting the hand. Charity drugs Beth to prevent her from going to the gypsies. Istvan, the gypsy, seizes Magda. Magda stands trial in the Collins Mausoleum. Istvan indicates the death sentence. King Johnny binds Petofi and prepares to cut off his hand. And basically, this is a story where basically we see one of the black gypsies pretty much jump off the cliff due to all the cultural inappropriateness of it all.
Can you imagine? Oh my God! Talk about going after people in a race kind of way. I mean, poor gypsies, man. I mean, they really have had it bad through history.
Went off Widow's Hill. I thought to myself, it's like, oh my God, all these white people in blackface, I can't stand it anymore.
He was, of course, Judge Ward Baker, who was the second and last black actor to be on Dark Shadows. The first one was the black nurse that gave Nicholas Blair a hard time. Back in 68 or something like that. Did
they have to dress him like that? I mean, he was a real buff man, but they had to put that vest on him. And it's just, Maine is really effing cold, even in the summertime sometimes. I mean, and it's just, the weather is intolerable sometimes. But I just think it's funny how they dress these guys. And, and you had so much, you could do that back then because you didn't have people pissing and moaning over stuff all the time.
The black look, he fell out of an Aladdin remake and ended up
exactly. Yes, there you go.
Yep. Or the Wonderful World of the Brothers Grimm, which is another forgotten classic. His
tongue, didn't they cut his tongue out? They cut his tongue out too.
That's why when he screamed, he which is this big, strong, virile black guy going.
Yeah, that's right. I was wondering why those noises were. My dogs even looked at the TV funny,
And then you got Johnny Romano walking around like he's looking for his brother Luigi so they can play on Mario Brothers. Luigi, I want to get the pizza pie.
Don't talk bad about Johnny Romano. He come and curse you in the middle of the night.
I think it's funny how Magda's always saying ain't. I ain't this. I ain't that.
Oh, it's even worse than that. Triple negatives. I don't do nothing.
Yeah.
I don't do nothing. Triple negatives.
You gotta love it.
That is really. But did you get the impression?
I have to say it's a good segment. I did enjoy the storyline. But looking at it with a modern take on it, oh my God, if any of these people were still alive, they would be so trashed on Twitter today. He'd be so canceled. Everyone in the segment would just be canceled.
Did you get the impression, though, that when he did the Romano thing, he did the accent? Sometimes it sounded like a Bela Lugosi accent almost. Julia, what is it? Magda, come to me, that kind of thing. It had a little bit of Bela Lugosi in it in the beginning. I think he was trying to find himself. And
I don't think he actually did because he jumped accents from episode to episode. They never really matched up.
Right.
He did because at one point he did the Bela Lugosi Hungarian accent, and then another point it looked like he was opening up a pizza parlor.
Oh, so it wasn't my imagination. Then he did that.
No, he didn't have much time to find himself, though. He only had a few episodes.
He passed, by the way, on July 8th, 1911 in Woodland Hills, California. May his memory be a blessing. But and he was on he was on a number. He was on Seinfeld. He was on what is Eloise at Christmas? I have no idea on that, but he was on. But he was in another. He was in a number of. Frasier. He was in Frasier also. So he didn't have a bad career. He didn't have a bad career after Shadows ended.
He was probably a really handsome man when they cleaned him up,
I mean, to be honest, it's only a 1 week. Wasn't only a 1 week gig anyway.
Really? I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
maybe two at a push. Because it was. He was as soon as he was on, you're kind of getting used to him. He was gone again. So it's like that whole Magda thing went pretty fast.
Every once in a while, his arm with a scimitar shows up.
Well, they also had that armed scimitar when Beth. Now they're starting to use I Ching more. And Petofi tries I Ching, and then Beth tries I Ching. Sooner or later, the taxi driver will try I Ching. But anyway, when Petofi has it, he sees the scimitar trying to cut him. You know, the vision of the scimitar trying to cut him.
It's doing the little dance.
It was
trying to get that narration over there.
Exactly. Which is really, and all you can do is see Thayer David looking green in the green light. I like the idea.
David, they made him wear that bleeding wig. You know, I just don't understand the wig. I don't know any Hungarians with that kind of hair.
I certainly don't.
I got a question. So, because I don't know if I zoned out or whatever, because I had a lot of editing to do when I was watching this. I was editing at the same time. What happens to Magda? Does she die?
That's a great question.
No.
Oh, she didn't die. They just got rid of her somehow. Where is Magda? We don't know. Because when they brought Grayson back as the Julia character,
she had to disappear.
What?
Yeah, but where did she disappear to? Because the thing is, she didn't. The court.
I don't
trial.
think they
She's
said.
not dead because I don't know. They kind of dropped her a little bit. They didn't say she was doing anything. I think I don't know what she was doing. They didn't specify, but she's still around.
I thought, did I miss something? Because it's like she just disappeared. It's like, okay, here she is, like in the middle of everyone's storyline, and then she has her little gypsy thing.
She's back full throttle after this.
I know the gypsies didn't do away with her, but then she just kind of that was it. It's like no more Magda. It's like
She just kind of walked off the face of the earth, and she might come back, and she might come back in the next block, but I doubt it because now
she's back.
She is back. Yeah, because they basically want to concentrate on the Grayson Hall thing, and I guess and the Julia thing. And I think there were too many makeup changes between.
It was probably close to impossible. You know,
I would think so. I would think so.
Not unless they shot all the Magda scenes or whatever first, or it's not like it was in front of a studio audience, so.
yeah.
They shot in front of a studio audience with all the bloopers. Could you imagine with all the laughs they would have gotten? Oh, that would have been terrible. You know, not like All in the Family. You know, that kind of thing. Darn, why can't I find? Well, I'll have to.
She hasn't gone anywhere, and she's not dead. She's just dormant. The character's dormant. Well,
yeah.
Well, Julia Hoffman is in the picture.
She got a lot of mileage out of Magda. I think she got a lot of mileage out of Magda. She was, and it was a big thing for her. It was an enormous big thing for her.
I love her.
Well, when I do the bloopers, I'll tell you all about what else. Judd Ward Baker was in a couple of movies also in the 70s, and but it was a very limited career, and he passed away, I think, 10 years ago.
This brings us to the scene for Tate and Amanda's story. Tate sees the brooch Amanda is wearing and recognizes her as the woman he painted. Tate is shocked when he sees the portrait of Quentin now depicts the image of a wolf. Tate tells Tim of creating a man by drawing him, and Tim kidnaps the creation. Quentin asks Amanda to marry him and leave Collinsport immediately. Tate learns that Amanda and Quentin love each other. He steals Quentin's portrait. Quentin is delayed leaving with Amanda when he learns his portrait is missing. So, Jesse, what are your thoughts about Tate and Amanda?
Not a fan. I'm really not a fan. Some of these Dark Shadows couples I do not understand. I also don't understand Beth and Quentin and storylines or meh. Like, I honestly totally had forgotten about them until I started to rewatch them. Like, oh wait, yeah, I forgot about those guys. I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Are you fans? Do you like them? Are they your favorite characters?
I like Amanda's played by Donna McKechnie, and the reason why is because Donna McKechnie is a Broadway goddess. She is the original Cassie in A Chorus Line.
Drop dead gorgeous.
She was the original dancer in Promises Promises. You know, I'll never fall in love again.
Oh yeah,
She's the original singer of that.
really? I didn't know that.
She was in a relationship with Michael Bennett, and Michael Bennett was a choreographer who she was like his muse sort of thing, and he did like Dreamgirls, and he did the chorus line, and so on and so forth. So to actually see her outside of like Tony Awards, performing, so it's good to see her do something else. But as far as yeah, I mean, I think as I said before, she's like a female dog in heat, and everyone's kind of on her, sort of thing. So it's kind of like
Poor Amanda, fresh blood.
But you got Tim.
I think that's what I resent the most.
Leg, and then Quentin's trying to ride her leg, and then you got Tate trying to ride her leg, and weirdly enough,
Barnabas got Tress trying to ride her arm.
Yeah, and interesting enough,
I will say
Barnabas is the only one that doesn't seem to be wanting to have a go at her.
No.
I will say, though, she is kind of like, I feel like her character is taking on a Maggie Evans role, but she infuses it with a bit more flair, so it doesn't just feel like a stagnant, redone character, because we've had Maggie Josette so many times, because Maggie and Josette are completely different characters.
Well, it's like you get her back too. You get the Josette shit going on.
I know it's redundant. It's very redundant. So with Victoria, Maggie, you can become redundant. So I'm glad that they do infuse this character with a little bit more pizzazz, because otherwise it would just be so redundant and annoying. But I do not like I don't like anyone paired with any of the characters that Roger Davis's characters are, because he's always presented the same way, and it's nothing against Roger Davis. It's just I don't like the characters that he's written as. They're very unappealing.
Do you think this was kind of random, the Pygmalion Galatea stuff? Because I'm trying to see how this fit in with Count Petofi and everything else.
Well, I think they were trying to come up with
I think they just tried to throw it in.
I'm trying to figure out how it was supposed. Tom, what do you think? I mean, how did you think it? How does it weigh in with Count Petofi and everything?
Well, they were trying to figure out, I think, a way to cure Quentin. And that, I think, is where the Dorian, and one of the writers must have come up with the Dorian Gray thing, because anything that you put in the painting now is not reflected in the real person. So during the full moon, the portrait turns into a wolf.
Right.
But Quentin is cured of that, except for he had a little minor pain when it first started, but he says, "Oh, it's different. And then the pain went away. So I think that was my guess is that was a way of coping with that, but in order to that, and then they wanted to get Roger Davis back because Dan Curtis always liked him. And I do want to say that although Roger played some characters that the writers really wrote bad, remember we were talking about this last podcast, Jesse, right. the Dirk character, the Dirk Wilkins was one of the best ones he ever did.
I liked the Dirk character a lot.
Yeah, the vampire character and the way he was able to.
Oh my God, he was the best vampire. I've always thought he made a badass vampire. He was evil incarnate. His eyes. There was something about Roger Davis doing. I mean, he just looked like a vampire. He just did. So. And
the way they, and the evolution that I went into last time, where when he was first bitten by Barnabas, he's acting like Renfield, looking for spiders, and then when he becomes a vampire, he's a traditional Lugosi vampire looking for blood, and then by the most mature vampire, before he was killed off, he's now more like the calculating Saint-Germain or Christopher Lee kind of Dracula. But there's no doubt that whenever Roger played something that was good or naive or that kind of thing, there was just something.
What about when him and Quentin started fist fighting? That was great.
Oh yeah. I mean, you'll have and he has a temper. Charles Delaware Tate has a temper, and with the thing with Briscoe and everything, and he's like very irrational and stuff, and but basically it's a servant character, and it's not a commanding character or controlling. It's not supposed to be, because he's Petofi's servant. He hates being Petofi's servant,
right?
And he's always telling him that. And he says, "Leave me alone. Get out of here. I got my work to do." And and Petofi says, "But my boy, I brought you along. I started you." And all that. And whatever.
Didn't he make it where he can't draw anymore? I mean, what a jerk. Yeah, he can't move his hand.
I mean, my problem with Roger Davis, I think, is that I think that he doesn't differentiate his characters very well. When he was Dirk, he was fantastic because it's something totally different. But this character is a lot like the Peter Bradford character, or the one that was with his incestuous sister, that character, or
He's had a lot of characters, hasn't he?
Yeah, but they all kind of blend into one kind of character, and it would have been nice if he gave this character maybe an accent, or maybe a mustache, or maybe some sideburns or something.
Well, that's what he did with Dirk.
Hair.
I mean, they gave him
personality.
Maybe that's why Amanda hates him, because I mean he's blasé,
Sure.
Marry me, Amanda, marry me,
I mean, he's always indentured to someone. It's always
He does seem to be indentured. That's a good word for it.
He's an indentured character.
Yeah,
he's a Irish.
And the thing is, we know that Roger Davis can, play different characters. When he played Dirk, he was fantastic. That's probably the first time I've seen him fantastic.
Yeah.
Though it was short-lived, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, even if you put on one of those French berets and pretend you were looking at a French artist or something, just something, just a hat. All you have to do is wear a hat. There's something different
instead of that frock. I don't know what the hell that thing was.
He's wearing the same clothes he wore when Dirk left. By
the way, did you note the traveling Afghan is in Dirk's apartment on the same couch? And of course, that whole set.
Well, that's Maggie Evans's house. That's Sam and Maggie's house.
That's right. So even 70 years ago, you still had that traveling Afghan on the couch.
Oh my God, they didn't move it? I didn't even
move it.
I think I
recognize the rocking chair. Now the rocking chair was there, and the windows are all there.
Right. They put those drapes over the windows, but the traveling Afghan is on the same couch in the same place.
That appeared in the 1700s as well. That Afghan as well. So
Afghans all over the place.
Everybody knitted that did a really good job because it lasted.
It was in Joe Haskell's apartment. It was. I mean, it was. God, you name it. It's been there. It's been more places than the Collinsport Fly. We haven't seen a lot of the, but I do have to give this particular block not that many bloopers, by the way. Last block, oh my God!
I noticed quite a few.
I had good, and then maybe then you and I could talk. We could both do the bloopers segment.
I was laughing. I was sitting there wondering. I wonder if Tom saw that.
No. There were definitely some things. I mean, there are some things that are so minuscule. That you just that I just.
Well, that boom. I mean, that boom is always all over the place.
Booms they're always there. That kind of thing.
And you can always see somebody's shadow standing there. I could hear a lot of talking, a lot of dropping of shit.
If you can ever hear what they're saying,
I know I need to put on headphones.
Contact me because I can hear a little, but I can't.
It was with Count Petofi up the episodes. I've heard a lot of talking in the background. So now I need to put on headphones. See,
you
if
may
I can
have a much, because I'll tell you it's amazing if we can figure out what they're saying. If we can figure out what they're saying. I do know the last block. It was a tremendous blooper. I think Hanley was talking to Trask or something, and then they started talking to somebody else, and somebody ran across the bottom of the screen, said, yes! Jesus.
I thought that was me. I thought I was just like,
no. But yeah, whoever it was said, Jesus, like he was like running towards one of the actors.
Yes, I saw that.
And then somebody else said, run. Right.
Yes, I heard that too. It's like, what the hell was that all about?
Wonderful. One of the actors needed to get to a certain place, and he forgot probably. So he's like running across, and he has to be there
what they were
right away.
talking about. You know that talking you're talking about? I know what they were saying.
What's
I
that?
think they were asking is whether you wanted mustard or mayonnaise with that ham performance.
Yeah, get me a bagel now. I was Curtis from the control room. I want a bagel now.
What a bagel with that
Bagel
hammy
with lox
performance.
and cream
Bagel and
cheese.
lox and cream cheese. You know, that kind of.
I've asked for lox and cream cheese down here, and people have looked at me like I grew a second head on my shoulder.
Oh my God! Can you believe that?
The uncivility of it all.
Well, you are near the buckle belt of the Bible Belt, so what do you expect?
Do they make bagels down there where you are?
And a bagel and cream cheese is. I mean, we are not total barbarians.
God's sakes. Oh, in Arizona, they made terrible bagels. Ugh. They don't know how to make bagels there. Or pizza. Oh, Italian, you know, that kind of stuff.
Mexican food's probably good, though.
I kind of like, you know, Danielle had some pictures. She got to know one of the technical people through somebody else, and he had a collection of technical shots from behind the scenes.
Cool.
And it's really cool. And it's online. It's on YouTube. And one of the pictures, you know, Barnabas is talking to somebody in the foreground, but then you see all the crew and the camera, and you got a nice cup of New York coffee standing on top of one of the cameras. And that's what they do when they're slurping coffee while the actors are
I always wonder who's gunning the camera though, because sometimes they're like swinging that bitch all over the place, and you know, like
control,
trying to focusing in on their cheekbones.
They lose control, and then
it's like their eyes, you know, right there.
I can just imagine the director making all sorts of faces and colors and stuff.
You got to remember, in the control room, you got you know, camera 2, camera 3, do this. Camera 4.
That's right.
That's what they're doing all the time.
Oh, but Vicky, if you hear anything when you're listening, put your earphones. If you hear anything, if you hear background chatter,
go back and listen to a couple episodes, because I heard lots of dropping, and I did see something run across. I don't know what that was.
Oh, that. But if you hear background chatter, that's what I'm interested.
I heard a lot of background chatter in this block.
But if you can hear, but if you can understand
I would have to put on headphones this time.
If you can understand it, yeah, that would be wonderful, because that really gives you a great sense of what was going on, because it was live.
Kept dropping stuff and making all kinds of noise too.
Oh, well, when Romano was doing his little speech in the mausoleum, and I think one of the Klieg lights
fell.
No, either fell or smashed, or the bulb, and you saw
something.
You saw this big flash.
Yeah,
he was doing a line, and he had to repeat it. He had to repeat the line because he heard the smash, and I think it was probably a light that exploded. I think the light exploded and went out, and you heard that. You saw this.
Could be. I heard that. I was like, what the hell's going on in that set?
Can't make that up.
This brings us to scene 5, Barnabas and Julia's story. Edward imprisons Barnabas, but cannot bring himself to shoot the vampire. Using the I Ching wands, Julia is transported back to 1897. Julia agrees to stay in 1897 and try to cure Barnabas of his vampirism. Petofi forces Julia to tell him about the I Ching wands. He uses them and goes into a trance. Barnabas learns where Julia is being held captive. Armistead into shooting her. Angelique agrees to help Barnabas defeat Petofi. Charity follows Quentin to a cave and discovers a coffin with Barnabas inside. Edward orders Barnabas' coffin to be chained and the cave to be sealed. So what are your thoughts about this, Vicky?
Well, everybody wants to kill Barnabas. They just don't want to get their hands dirty, do they? You know,
well,
it's sort of like it's like Quentin is it Quentin that gets Charity all riled up to go kill him? Is that who does it? She does. I know she does.
That's later.
That's later.
Yep, that's later. But she's the one that gets her.
Well, everybody wants to kill him, and just nobody wants to do it.
Well, everyone now knows that Barnabas is a vampire anyway. Who doesn't know that he's not a vampire?
How has this not
Jameson and Nora.
Well, yeah, but I mean, everybody knows. Edward knows he's a vampire. Quentin
All the adults know it.
Nora saw him as a vampire.
Beth knows he's a vampire.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. I don't know whether she connected it. Yeah, he saw him biting Charity.
Beth does. Trask does.
Oh, yes.
He does become a bit Beauty and the Beast and the townskeeper going after the beast. Kill the beast. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's after Barnabas. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like it's going to change everything. And I just don't understand how, Edward is so fooled by Petofi. He doesn't get it. And you get this lady, Kitty. I thought they were calling her Katie. I don't know why. Katie would have been better than Kitty. I'm sorry. I would have definitely changed that name. I associate Kitty in the Victorian age with, tavern sluts or slatterns or whatever you call them.
When I think of this time period, I think of Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke.
Yes.
Miss Kitty,
I think of Petticoat Junction or something, I don't know.
And there's Uncle Joe.
Kitty Pride reminds me too much of Lion Pride.
That's funny.
He uses them to go to a trance. See, now, they get into a trance. And Barnabas didn't normally have a hard time coming through. Now we know that Julia did not have a hard time going through. But why all of a sudden is it such a big deal, everybody coming through? And it didn't seem like a big deal before.
Some people
and why do we see Quentin dressed up with a tie in the 1960s? So,
it's a kind of a weird thing because Barnabas's body's still back, so he was transported into his vampire body. Julia's able to come in full body.
So her body's in a trance in 69 still.
The story is.
So this is the essence.
The essence travels. That's why he couldn't kill Julia, because the bullet went right through. Went to the chair.
The essence of the deal is that Julia's permanent body is in the 20th century. So
you have to have a body to go to.
And Barnabas had, that's it, Vicky. Barnabas had the body to go to because he was chained up in the coffin in 1897. Julia never had a body.
His body is still there in 1897.
Yeah,
correct.
Because they said it disappeared at one point, didn't it?
And he's possessed. That was when Barnabas was doing his physical body in the 20th century disappeared because Petofi, was it Petofi that interrupted or Edward interrupted? Edward was the one who interrupted. Barnabas was in the I Ching trance and Edward threw the sticks on the floor. Barnabas was trying to get back to...
I was trying to remember who threw the sticks on
Barnabas
the floor.
was trying to get back to the 20th century. Edward interrupted him, threw the sticks on the floor, and then Barnabas's body disappeared completely. So how's he?
Okay. So did he go back to 69?
He didn't go. No, he was in the process of doing that, and Edward interrupted him. Edward interrupted him as he was walking towards the door that would have led him back to 1969.
Remember, he was going through Shawshank Redemption prison door, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And then I saw, did you see Marilyn Monroe's picture, by the way, on the other side? Or was that Raquel Welch? But anyway, so so the bottom line, so the bottom line was now Barnabas doesn't have a body to go back to in the present. What's going to happen? In the meantime, Julia has that body back there, so she can't be hurt by normal means. So that's why the bullets went right through her when Aristide set up that trap for her.
Now, what I don't understand is when Petofi was in the trance, why didn't they just kill him then?
Yeah, I mean, kill him?
He would have been stuck in between the two worlds, wouldn't he?
If Petofi had been killed by that, and that was with that tribunal, the Nkosi, the Nabuzi, it sounds like an African word, they made that up, the most fearsome gypsies in the world, and he heard them coming out. I kind of like that musical score. I wonder where that was from. But anyway, they brought him back. They brought him back, and they didn't really. Why wasn't he killed?
Because it would have been too easy. We could have been done with this wig weeks ago.
That's right. And they still had a contract with.
I have to sit there and say that And with his beard and mustache, David Thayer's got liver-looking lips. He's got liver lips.
He does. He's got maybe in those bottle cap glasses. I mean,
We had a girl who used to wear glasses like that in school. We used to call her Coke bottles.
Oh, God.
I have never been as cruel. I've never been that mean.
No, neither.
Everyone was mean in the 70s and 80s. Is what he did.
Those are hyperoptic, that's far-sighted things, the goofy glasses.
And Lady Kitty.
It must have been horrible with that. He must have been bumping into crap all the time.
Well,
and there's Trask. You got the same. Trask has not changed at all from 1796.
He's wearing the same clothes, basically.
Everything's the same. He hasn't changed. They might have kind of, except for the long hair. He's a pervert. He likes the ladies. Let's face it.
He was a pervert before in the 1700s as well.
Yeah.
Trask was a little boy. They kind of just had the same outfit for him. He just kind of like the little toddler Trask outfit, and then like high school.
I will say this though about Kitty, the new character, and when I asked Catherine Leigh Scott about it, my impression was, we were talking about this before the podcast, and my impression was that she kind of reminded me of Tara from Gone with the Wind, with the dresses? Fiddle-dee-dee, that kind of thing, and
this character is a non-starter for me.
Well, you don't know enough about her yet, but
let's go into scene 6.
Okay.
Lady Kitty Soames arrives to visit Edward and Barnabas, and Barnabas recognizes her as the image of Josette again. Kitty dreams of Angelique bringing gifts from a suitor, and when she awakes, she finds them on her bed. Kitty seems to start becoming Josette. So
Kitty's a reincarnation of Josette.
Well, what's the point at this juncture?
I think what they will establish.
I haven't worked for a while. Can I come back and can you put me in this slot? And they kind of did it at the last moment. Seems like they don't give it a lot of thought.
I think at this point there was this hint when she played Rachel Drummond that she might have been the reincarnation, but it didn't come out as much. They decided to really bring this out full in force with Kitty Hampshire, who's now having flashbacks into the Josette era. Where is Barnabas's picture on the wall? Why did they take it off?
Before that's 21. We've seen this whole thing play out before, over and over. I thought
they're bringing it back again. It's
in all honesty, though, that's what a lot of fans love. They love the Barnabas and Josette story. I think that maybe they're just trying to cater to everybody looking for that little bit of unrequited love, star-crossed lover shit.
As we said before, I found the Barnabas and Josette storyline before they went back in time to be this great, fantastic love story. Then, of course, we got back, and the reality is like a lot different than what we experienced. So then, when we go back to it, it's kind of like now that we've seen it, it's kind of like
again.
Because that love story, I said before, the love story for me was between Barnabas and Victoria. I think that was the most fantastic.
Yeah, he loved her. He did.
Because that just seemed a bit more real. The Josette, I think because they put so much emphasis on it that by the time that we saw the reality of it, first of all, there's no chemical reaction between Jonathan Frid and Catherine Leigh Scott. There's more attraction between Angelique and Barnabas than there was between Barnabas and Josette. And Josette and Joshua, there was a lot of sexual tension there.
Right.
So you saw the reality of it. It didn't play out for what they told us.
Josette and Jeremiah, you mean? Josette and Jeremiah. Not Joshua. That would be good. Josette and Joshua. Now, son, I think you should go out of the room now. Yeah.
So I think that was part of the problem. And so now when they keep bringing this Josette thing up again, it's like, I would have been better if it's like she looked a little more like Victoria Winter or something. It's almost like because it's gonna be a non-starter. It's not gonna go anywhere.
Why do I keep missing my favorite all Louis Edmonds one-liners though? God, I
don't have those. Because those were for Roger, and you don't have them here with it.
I know.
Quentin's the one with all the one-liners.
Yeah, Edward's just sexually repressed. I mean, that's his character, especially with Press Victorian.
Well, it's the Victorian times, or turn of the century. So
Quentin's
he's
got
so worried
all
about the money and basically having someone taking control of his money sort of situation. And that's, I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's not too upset about his sister being in a psychiatric.
Yeah.
It's they basically limited Edward's character to a Victorian, and they could have given him more Roger lines, but they really didn't. I think the writers were concentrating on the Quentin crush that all the fans had. This was the new Dark Shadows boy toy, and so they were concentrating on developing the sarcastic.
He handled it really well too. David Selby excels in these roles, and he's just fantastic throughout this whole block.
Selby's great, and he really shows his just an actor's actor, that kind of thing. And
he's almost too good.
Well, that was why originally, I mean, he and Frid got along well together in terms of the fact that he picked up the slack, but I think there was a little envy. I heard there was a little envy on the part of Frid towards Selby in the beginning, but that kind of vanished. They got to know each other and they got to get along. Selby's a very nice person.
Frid finally had like a couple weeks off.
Right, exactly. And you're going to see actually in the next block where Jonathan's going to have to take a month off. And we're going to talk about that during the next block. That will be, and we'll know why and you'll know how, but nobody knew that at the time. But and again, when the movie was going on, Selby picked up for Jonathan while they were shooting the movie upstate. Right. And they always talk about that. And Selby did a marvelous job. I mean, people forgot about Barnabas for a while. I think if it weren't for Selby, people would be very upset that Barnabas wasn't on there so long. So you got to give David.
Or Joan Bennett,
Well, when she's on, that's another thing. She's been in the sanitarium, by the way, for a couple of
4 months.
Yeah, that's a long time. She's still. One wonders. She's been taking a nice. She's been in the sauna a lot.
Well, for what it's worth, in the next block, she hasn't learned anything.
Catherine Scott's been off about 3 months before they brought her back.
Who's that?
Stephanie Scott's been off for 3 months.
Yeah. And then she came back because and she will be here for a while. It will be interesting to see how that picks up because Barnabas will think that he finally has found his true love, even if it isn't his true love. But he thinks
he's always on the look for his true love. He doesn't know what he wants.
That's very true. Here's Julia. I'm saying to myself, geez, I mean, she could have kept herself out of so much trouble.
Yeah.
By staying in the present. She goes back to the past to help him. She gets tied up. She gets the trauma of being shot, even though she isn't killed, but she doesn't know that. She's kidnapped. She's emotionally.
She tried to do modern medicine in the 1890s.
That's a great
Where
one.
did the doctor's bag come from all of a sudden? And where's she getting in his way to make him walk in the daylight again?
Looked to me like it was a carpet bag, actually. I didn't think that was a medical bag. I thought it was a carpet bag, which I think is even funnier.
Well, I was trying to figure out what happened. Where did this
I think she finally gets dresses appropriatly at some point, doesn't she? It takes her a while.
Yeah.
Out of her modern clothing.
Well, Louis Edmund finds her out front, and it's just like, oh, look at her. She's dressed indecently.
And so did, what was it, Nancy Barrett also,
What kind of dress is that?
She's trying to kill Quentin. She's trying to kill Quentin.
Everybody's trying to kill Quentin.
That's in the meantime, the poor thing is sitting on the couch and she can't even verbalize. I mean, she's still, and they're throwing all these accusations at her and trying to get her to talk and stuff like that. I mean, it's
she
amazing.
Is such a physical actress.
Well, the funny thing about it, this is Julia gets flung back to 1897. We finally get the one female character who has arrived on Collinsport since Quentin arrived, who doesn't want to sleep with.
You're going to find something interesting on this, and it'll be in the next block, but you're going to see something developing between Angelique and Julia in terms of, and that's the only time that really happened on the show. because obviously Julia hated Angelique from the start.
Well, they could have been friends had it been another world or another time.
Well, they're going to have to work together.
Well, they're both burned by Barnabas, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
They do all this stuff with Barnabas, and basically just Barnabas is one of these people that keeps asking for favors, but he doesn't really give you anything in return. So it's like,
no, what does he do for everybody, really?
Friendship sometimes.
Barnabas,
he kind of sucks the joy out of everybody's life.
Barnabas, unfortunately, is more of a taker than a giver, and he's extremely selective in who he wants to give to.
He's not a lover; he's a fighter.
And then that music box shows back up. What's the deal with the music box?
Oh, I hate that music box.
It just means we're going to have another couple of months of listening to a god-awful song from Joseph's music box.
Well, as opposed to the Pansy Faye thing, now instead
Oh, God, the Pansy. I mean, can't they come up with different tunes?
They do. Later.
No, but I think if this was done in the millennia, basically it would be the Dark Shadows mega mix. With dance class.
Vicky, remember those words you said. Why don't they come up with new songs? They will.
They probably they do. I know.
Two new songs that I can think of. But
I think I was kind of snoozing off and on because I wasn't feeling good and I was binging these. And you wake up, it's like, oh shit, what I miss, But I couldn't figure out. Where did the music box come from? How did that?
Yeah,
they finally gave Pansy her own gramophone. By the way, they gave Pansy her own gramophone.
She did get her own gramophone.
It's a black little gramophone that she has in her room, so she. Can
I didn't notice it.
So she can play her sweet little rendition of "I Want to Dance with You," a very sad instrumental version of it.
She can relive her music hall days.
Her music hall days.
Exactly. Can you imagine she's at the Blue Whale? She's doing that act at the Blue Whale. That's one thing I'd like to see. I mean,
in 20 years' time, she'd go into music hall turns into whatchamacallit, burlesque. Burlesque.
Yeah, no kidding. You got like 25 years before it's big deal. Yeah, vaudeville,
then burlesque.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think what we'll probably go to now is what's your best storyline and your worst storyline of this segment, starting with you, Vix.
Best storyline. God, there's so many going on. Out of all of them, it's not that. Well, time travel one is like kind of intermingled with all of them. I don't know. Are these storylines are so crisscrossed? Are they even separated at all? I could say the one I don't care about the most is bringing Josette's storyline back. They're beating that like a dead horse. I can tell you that. We all know. I understand the unrequited love, star-crossed lovers. Some people didn't want to let it go, but it's just there's so much going on already. It's just like, golly, you're getting confused. I would probably have to say it's Quentin's storyline and his journey and what's going on with him at the moment, because you got where the vampire thing is leading to. And we're kind of used to this back and forth with Barnabas, but now we got David Selby's Quentin character. And it's kind of interesting to see where this is going, because he's definitely had an evolution of sorts since he started. So we'll see where it goes.
And what about yourself, Jess?
I would definitely agree as far as my least favorite storyline, and that is bringing Josette back, because they're not only beating that dead horse, but they're pulling that decaying carcass out of the ground. And it's like, it didn't really work the first time. It was okay the first time.
It was good the first time, I thought.
It was. But then you do it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time, and it's like, okay, now it's a bit overdone now. How many more times are we going to see this rendition?
Well, maybe
how many reincarnations of Josette are there? Yeah, but it's like, we don't need filler. It's not like there's one storyline and you're kind of struggling to get by. There's so much going on. You do not need filler. So it's a bit confusing as to why they felt the need to bring that back, because Maggie or Catherine Lee Scott could play any character, any other character. And I would love to see Catherine Lee Scott with a grittier character, a harder edge, not edgy. I don't want to say that, but kind of the way you originally saw Maggie.
A bitch, I think, a really bitchy, horrible character who's got like a thing going on behind it all, or something. Or
because she does a good job with. I could see that coming out of her doing that very well, because when she does get in that place, it comes off really well. Like when she was mean to Joe and after she was bitten, she did a really good job being kind of nasty to him. And it was kind of entertaining because Joe's just kind of like a sack of potatoes. Sometimes you want to throw him around. So I would like to see, I would have liked to see her have more of those kinds of characters. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it would have been more. Yeah. As far as my
do you say your favorites?
No, I didn't say my favorite. My favorite was probably. Oh my goodness, I don't even know.
There's so much going on.
There really is. I always like to see like Maggie and Count Petofi. Not Count Petofi. What's his name? Sandor. I like Sandor.
Sandor's dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although they did bring him back once.
For about 20 seconds.
During the trial.
It wasn't very exciting or titillating.
Yeah, his biggest line was Magda Rakosi. That was his big line.
I guess maybe the Quentin storyline right now, because, I mean, that's the reason why we're back in this timeline anyway. I'm having a hard time getting into all of the characters right now, because, like you said before, the Count Petofi does take forever. I like the idea of Count Petofi's character. I just think they're struggling to really say what it is they want to say, maybe, and don't really know where to put him or bring him.
That's probably more, yeah.
Petofi needs a weakness. He needs a chink in his armor to make him a bit more relatable, I think.
Yeah, something. He doesn't... He's
the gypsies are his weakness.
Yeah, but they're gone.
I don't know.
They all commit suicide because of their cultural inappropriateness. They all jumped off because they knew what was going to happen.
Like lemmings off a cliff. They
knew what happened if they lived to see 2020. They just would be canceled.
I think if this was done,
cancel the gypsies. Cancel
them. So, but no, I understand about Petofi and Quentin. What about yourself, Tom? Your favorite or worst storyline?
So I got to say that the worst storyline for me was the Pygmalion in Galatea, as well as the picture of Dorian Gray. I mean, it was just something. I mean, yeah, they had to do something in order to cure him. But why the heck use that? Such a ripoff, and and they even at one point have Selby looking at the picture saying, "Oh, I always wanted to look like that." And I mean, if that isn't Dorian Gray, I don't know what is. I mean, that was just so. And of course, that's going to be their stock answer as to how he was cured because history's been changed.
Right.
In point of fact, one wonders if Count Petofi would even have appeared in the original timeline. I don't think there would have been a reason for him to appear in the original timeline, which is why all this gets started in the first place. So, and that Galatea thing, them bringing that guy, Art Court, I think his name is, Art Court. Court is his last name, for 3 episodes. And that was a ripoff of Adam. If you think about it, I mean,
he's nicer looking and had no lines because I don't think Dan Curtis
no scars
for lines.
What, the guy he kind of whipped up out of nowhere?
That's it. Yeah, 3 days.
The one who was like gaping in the back like a goldfish looking
Art Court, whatever his name. I mean, nothing against the actor. It was just a silent role with all he does is just gape and go. He's and Briscoe's trying to get him.
Surprised here.
Oh, we've got to give Briscoe an honorable mention for turning into a butthead. He mean, greedy asshole in this block, and it's just like, oh, my darling has turned dark.
He handles it well.
How was he taken out of the show though? Was it because he was shot, or was it because they tore up a piece of paper?
when Briscoe left in the they claimed, well, this is going on ahead, but I think they claimed that both Chris and Amy decided to move out of Collinsport.
No, I'm talking about Silent Man there. You know, the one that Tate draws and he comes
right
fruition.
And how is he? He's shot by Tate.
Yeah.
He missed something there. What would have been interesting if Tate just tore up the piece of paper and he just disintegrates.
And he doesn't. Tate ripped up the piece of paper, but he did not disintegrate.
Yeah.
Then Briscoe kidnapped him and had him in his Collinsport Inn room. And again, you get this thing of Professor Stokes and Adam for a few minutes, trying to teach him how to speak, trying to encourage him how to speak.
I think he was in the closet with Jonathan Frid and Roger.
But the way he's disposed of is that Tate walks in on the both of them with a gun, and Tate shoots the guy, and he falls down on the floor, and then he disappears, agonizes and disappears, and that's how Cord is gotten rid of. But anyway,
I thought it would have made it more interesting if he tore up or balled up the piece of paper or something, and then he disappeared. Because that would have added on to the Amanda story, like what would happen with the Amanda portrait and
exactly.
So I thought it would have been interesting things to do with that. But
they've got more things to do with Amanda, and you're going to see what comes up with that, and that's going to once again rip off another classic. But so I really think that was a kind of a waste. That was really a kind of a non-starter for me. It was kind of a waste of time. Yes, it's true. You've got the Josette thing. I would also say that wasn't one of the better parts of this block. But I think it comes to an eventual resolution later on in the show. We're finally going to understand. We're going to put an end to this thing with Josette and Barnabas in a later part of the block, and fans will be upset and all that kind of thing. But all good things must come to an end. But that's not going to happen for a while. They're not going to happen for a while. They're going to milk this as much as they get. Now, the best that I liked was Julia going back to 1897. I thought that introduced a new kind of a little fresh blood. It got us to see the present again, and it got us to see Amy and Professor Stokes and Julia. And there was even a little thing about Julia dreaming David had died, by the way. Quentin had finally killed David. And then when history was changed, Quentin's ghost was no longer, the timeline had changed. No more Quentin's ghost, no more Beth's ghost. And David woke up from his, good thing they hadn't buried him first. But David, that would have been another Joan Bennett plot. They buried David alive, but but David woke up, and I think that plot. So I think that the Julia thing, plus the way they handled Quentin's original death, September 10th, 1897, what was supposed to happen on that day, and the way they kind of really was smooth, the way they went between two time periods. I enjoyed that. And they went back between 1897 and 1968 pretty fluidly, whereas you're concentrating on one time period for a long period of time. So that's my take on it, Keith.
My best storyline is Beth. I was not kind of been ignoring her, but in this block, I was actually quite interested in her for some reason. I'm finding her character has gone on a journey, which I'm quite enjoying at the moment. So she's probably my favorite storyline at the moment. My worst, I'm gonna have to go with Lady Kitty Soames.
Lady Kitty Soames, yeah.
It's like normally when someone comes on, then I get a bit excited. Oh, they're back. I just thought when she came back and he goes, "Oh, does that?" I just went, I just rolled my eyes, and by that time, it's like I just lost the will to live. And I was like one step about taking a hot bath with a razor blade, but I decided I'll wait until the next block before that happens. So yeah. So Now let's go to our favorite character and our least favorite character. Starting with you, Vic. What's your favorite character and your least favorite character?
I'm going to have to go with Nancy Barrett because she's just so fun in this. And, and sometimes she's kind of looked over because, she's, I don't know, I just sometimes kind of think she's looked over. And I just love how her energy and her youth and everything comes through in this Pansy Faye thing. And she gets a chance to shine. And then she goes from that dull, drab wallflower to this, colorful, tavern slut, singer, performer kind of thing. And, I just think she's absolutely precious. And I just love watching her go through all the evolution and the changes she's done since the beginning. Worst character that we're up to now?
Yep.
Worst character.
So many to choose from.
There's a million of them. And I can't say that because it's not her fault. She's just written that way. Worst character. I have to say Aristide. Aristide is about what the hell is his purpose? I mean, they should have kept the new guy that was looking around dumbfounded. That was the new painting that was born or whatever, the sketch that was born. I would have settled for him. So I like Aristide and everything. The actor's great. I mean, he went on to do other things, but I just come on.
It's kind of like Mrs. Johnson's son in a way. Harry Johnson. Kinda. Yeah. Just from a different
Aristide is just a pain in the ass. Yeah. I mean, he's like a bad penny that shows up. He's not a nice person. He doesn't.
A hat with a tassel on it.
Huh?
He wears a hat with a tassel on it.
He reminds me of a Hunchback of Notre Dame character.
Maybe he's a Shriner.
The Disney version.
Maybe he's a Shriner.
He's a Shriner. Yeah, who'd have thought he would have Shriners back then?
They did. I think they did.
What about yourself, Jesse? Who's your favorite and worst?
Maybe I'll just say Roger Davis's character in this block is kind of boring to me, so I'll say him for the worst. And for my favorite, maybe Quentin. Maybe I'll just say Quentin.
Quentin does a good job. David Selby's fantastic in this block.
It's a relief to finally see more of him, other than just standing in the doorway, terrifying David.
Honestly, I didn't have a problem with anybody's performances. They were all really strong.
Yeah.
I hate saying I dislike anybody, but.
Mm-hmm. And what about yourself, Tom? Favorite and worst?
Well, I'm glad you asked me this last because I've been trying to think. Well, I agree with Vicky as far as the worst one was Michael Stroker as Aristide. I think he just basically wimps along, Count Petofi's toady with his dancing lady, which is made of wood, and and just basically does yes master, no master. He's like his puppy dog. I mean, they just know, and you do get a sense. I think this was part of what Michael Stroker, because it was the way the writers wrote it. But Michael Stroker at one point says, if Petofi weren't around, I'd have to think for myself. I think that's a very, very great clue into the fact that Aristide is really a useless wimp without Petofi.
Right.
And he'd have to fend for himself. He doesn't know how to do the first thing. He doesn't even know how to sign a checkbook kind of guy.
Right.
So so that's the worst. And in terms of the best, Selby, I'm going to put a tie between Selby, but I also want to put David Hennessy in as Jameson because of
that too. That kid definitely deserves a mention. He did. I mean, David Hennessy, fantastic.
He's always done a good job, and that's rare for a kid actor.
Absolutely. And here he portrays, of course, it's easy to portray David, but he's also portrayed when he was Petofi, and let's give him credit for that. He did a great job, pretending to be the adult Petofi, although he didn't have the accent. That would have been cute if he was able to do Petofi's accent. But he still did an excellent job at portraying different possessed characters in addition to his own. So I would be a tie between those two as best. See?
My worst is Lady Kitty. Lady Kitty. I
Kitty.
love Kathleen Scott and everything like that, but this is just this. It's like it just reminds me of Roger Davis doing Tate Donovan. It's like, oh God,
Right.
There's any differentiation between her and Maggie Evans at all? And I'm just kind of like, oof. And yeah, I'm just kind of rolling my eyes. I mean, I'll keep an open mind to see where this goes. But I just
Right. Agreed. Yeah.
And as far as my favorite, I'm going to go with Nancy Barrett because
I think she's fantastic.
The thing is, I have to sit there and say, with her, Nancy Barrett's character so far through all the Dark Shadows that we've seen up to this point, she's done the most with every character that she's given. Every character that she's ever given, she's done something different with every single character.
Her diversity definitely speaks for itself.
She will continue to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I love her. I think she's just cute as a button in this one too. I just love her.
Smart.
Her floppy curls up on top of her head and her makeup. And I don't really think beauty marks were a thing back then. Apparently they were.
Yeah.
They were.
In the 1800s,
they all had different meanings.
We had her in the 1700s where she played that ditzy character. What was her name? Charity? No.
Chastity. No, wait. Oh, Dipsy.
Nancy Barrett?
Yeah, she played. Oh God, she was the cousin. Oh my God, she was kind of a dipshit. Yeah. Oh God, that's gonna make me nuts.
But she played that character. And then we had Carolyn. Then we had Carolyn is like taking over her mother's role. So we had that stern character.
Right. And
then we had her at Charity here, where she's kind of like, virgin-like and kind of.
Of course, right.
I like her defying Trask because Trask is such a butthead. Nothing changes him.
Oh, it's great. No, it's great to see those two work together.
I love when she butts
heads. We got her Pansy Faye, and it's got like every single character she does. They're different characters.
What a memory she has. Robert Rodin, may rest in peace, brought it up in our interview that working with Nancy Barrett, and she had a photographic memory. She knew all her lines. And even on, they recently did the Christmas show, the Christmas Carol. On YouTube, and Nancy Barrett was on there, and they were asking questions after the show, and of course the fans wanted David Selby and Nancy Barrett to reprise "I Want to Dance with You." David Selby didn't remember the lines. Nancy Barrett remembered every line, and she sang the whole damn song. And this is 50 years later. This is an incredible, you don't always expect that. David Selby, God bless him, is one of the most talented actors around, but man's not perfect. But she has
tried to get him to sing for us.
What?
I tried to get him to sing for us. He didn't.
He doesn't remember the lines. You got to get.
He did. No, he didn't.
They did.
Millicent. Millicent Collins.
Oh,
sorry.
Millicent!
The crazy. I could remember that.
Oh yeah. Who could forget Millicent? Oh, she played that little retarded kind of thing.
Every character is so different. That's all I love about her.
Jesse, are you raising your hand or are you just stretching yourself?
I was just stretching.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to say something. Now let's all stretch it. Stretch. Yeah, it's an incredible memory that she has, and you're going to see more characters that she does infuse into the show. And each side, she's like Thayer David in a way, because Thayer David also was able to do that with each of his characters, do a different side to it. Tremendous range on both of their parts. Yes. Tremendous range.
Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License Podcast. Next month, we'll be doing Dark Shadows, October to November 1969 episodes, which will comprise of episodes 856 to 893. And, of course, our book to screen will be American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis, and the film from Well, let me see.
And the film that goes with the book.
Yeah, the film from 2003. Sorry, folks. Don't remember what the American Cycle was released. And of course, we'll be doing Bewitched, which we're currently into season 3, episodes 16 to 23. And our 80s 2-for-1 will be Killer Clowns from Outer Space from 1988 and Bad Taste, directed by Peter Jackson, yes, from Lord of the Rings, from 1987. And so it's good night for myself, and good night, Vicky.
Good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Good night, Jesse.
Have a good night, folks.
Good night, Tom.
Last but not least, there's me. Good night, everybody. Have a great one.
We'll see you next month for Dark Shadows, episodes 856 to 893. And next week, we'll be doing our soap retrospective. Make sure you tune in for that. And next month, we'll start off the next month again with American Psycho by Brett. Good night, folks.